Alright, and we are live. The Great Ace Attorney Chronicles, Part 6. And we're about to face off once again against the Reaper of the Bailey. Well, I never expected this. Who'd have thought we'd be back here again so soon? We're on a study tour of Great Britain, with the intention of learning the country's legal practices. In order to research the latest court procedures here, we need as much court experience as possible. Well, yes, I suppose that's true, but for the person in the dock, it may well be his or her one and only time in court, and it could be life-changing. In which case, treating it as research may seem a little crass. Oh, when you put it like that, you're quite right. Good morning. Oh, it's our client, isn't it? Yep. Mr. Natsume, good morning. Oh dear, are you alright? Your eyes are terribly bloodshot. The early bird catches the worm, as they say here in Britain. Yes, I've heard that expression. But I really don't want to catch a worm. So I tried desperately not to wake up early, but I was so worried I couldn't catch a wink. Now, I'm absolutely exhausted as a result. Do all literary people take things so literally? Thank you for putting your faith in us today, Mr. Natsume. I wish I had 9 lives. My whole future hangs in the balance. I'm too terrified to tremble. Really? Because I can feel tremors in the floor. I can't do this. I can't take it. Although, locum student Mr. Naruhodo Esquire, yes, I caught a glimpse of the public gallery as I walked by the courtroom. It looked like the opening night of the opera. There were so many people. I had no idea my case was such a notorious affair here in London. Oh, neither did I. Do you know why that might be, Mrs. Sato? I'm sorry, Mr. Naruhodo, but I have no idea. Is that all-knowing look on your face just coincidence, then, is it? Don't hide the truth from me! It's because of the Reaper, isn't it? Lord Van Zykes? Is that right, Mrs. Sato? I purchased as many different newspapers as I could find this morning, and yes, Lord Van Zykes is on the front page of every one. I knew it. Sometime after the prosecutor was dubbed the Reaper of the Bailey, he stopped appearing in court, it seems. It's been several years now, in fact, until the day before yesterday. Yes, Inspector Gregson told us something similar, didn't he? The trial 2 days ago marked Lord Van Zykes' return to the courtroom after a very long hiatus. The trial of Magnus McGilded. Ugh, what a harrowing experience that was. I believe that appearance made even greater waves here in the capital than today's. But we wouldn't have realized, of course, having only just arrived in the country. Why is the Reaper back in the Bailey so soon, for what appears to be a mundane murder? That's the question the papers are asking, and they're all speculating various answers. Mundane? Mundane? It's the most significant saga of the century to some of us! Oh dear, I meant no offense, Mr. Natsume, but that is how the papers are describing it. Well, lest we also forget the fact that it could spark an international incident. Obviously, the reappearance of this infamous prosecutor has only caught people's attention, but there's another blatant similarity with the trial of 2 days ago. Yes, I agree. Locum student Mr. Naruhodo Esquire. It's you! Me? Well, I suppose that's true. Both times it is you who stands against this legendary prosecutor. It can only mean that you're friends with the Reaper! Please, I don't rub shoulders with Deathbringers. I'm afraid that there is really only one other explanation. It can only be another example, Mr. Naruhodo, of your uncommon bad luck. Thanks for that. Oh, this is just my luck. Why must I be represented by a man with such frail fortune? By the least lucky lawyer alive! Well, let's not forget that it was you, Mr. Natsume, who asked me to represent you. Yes, it's true that I'm just a student, new to London, with little in the way of experience or skills, or luck. But I promise you this. I will fight for your corner until the bitter end. And I will believe in you, Mr. Natsume. Oh, benevolent locum student, Mr. Naruhodo Esquire. You're not alone here with us, Mr. Natsume. Whatever happens, We will always be on your side. Oh, benevolent non-locum assistant Miss Mikitoba Esquires. I am in your debt, forever. I shall never forget this great kindness for as long as I live.
Mr. Natsume, counsel for the defense. The court session is about to begin. Kindly make your way into the courtroom at once.
Alright then, Mr. Natsume. It's time. Let's go.
Yes!
This is it. My second appearance in a British courtroom. And my second trial against the Reaper. I hope you're watching over me, Kazuma. Because this time, I won't let my faith waver. I'll believe in my client to the last. Just like you believed in me. I believe I can do this now. I'm ready for this fight. 20th of February, 10 a.m., the Old Bailey courtroom.
In the name of Her Majesty the Queen, I hereby declare this court to be in session. I now call upon the counsel for the prosecution and defense to declare their willingness to proceed.
The prosecution is fully prepared, my lord. The defense is ready, my lord. The Nipponese are a truly fascinating breed. Sorry, what? Lord Stoneheart has told me all about you. That you are a student who arrived in London 2 days ago, a mere amateur. Do you have a point? Being a compatriot, you feel compelled to try to help the accused, I suppose. Typical Nipponese arrogance. Forgive me, but I do not believe arrogance is an appropriate description. Susato-san. After all, at our previous encounter, the defendant was found to be innocent. Very true, and the most fascinating, if dark, trial it was, too. The tragic conclusion came later, of course. He is to be acquitted, and his unfortunate, violent end.
Thank you, counsels. I see both sides are in fine fettle. Now, ladies and gentlemen of the jury, are you ready to carry out your duties here in court as impartial members of the public? Never know when you might be down on your luck, but I believe in fair play for everyone.
Well, I must warn you, I'm rather more ruthless than I appear. Oh, well, not me. What you see is what you get. I'm a peace-loving fellow.
I'm afraid to say, I think it's quite possible that mustachioed foreigner did the deed.
That's the same juror from last time.
Come on, what are we waiting for? No doubt he did it anyway.
Sorry? Didn't quite catch that. It's always someone who can't hear very well.
Very well, let us proceed. Opening statement, if you please, Lord Van Zykes.
Very recently, Great Britain signed an alliance with a rising power in the Far East. The accused in the dock today is a student from that same land, a certain Mr. Soseki Natsume. And while our country has extended this foreign student the warmest of welcomes, regrettably, the kindness has not been returned. In fact, the student is accused of a most sinister act.
Of plunging a knife into the back of an innocent woman who was doing nothing but walking down the street. A knife crime. I tell you from bitter experience, those are the worst. Bloody oath they are.
Just look at that sallow complexion and short stature. He's one of those dreadful Japanese.
Come on, let's get this over with. With me now, everyone. 1, 2, 3.
Sorry? Didn't quite catch that. Pray, forgive the discourtesy of smashing my hollowed chalice here in this great chamber. Allow me to call the first witness to the stand.
Very well. Bailiff, lead the inspector in, please.
Oh, Gregson's going to be our first witness, huh? Your name and occupation, please.
Yes, sir. Tobias Gregson, Detective Inspector at Scotland Yard.
Would you please summarize the events of the case for the court, Inspector?
The victim is thought to be a young woman in her 20s by the name of Olive Green.
Funny.
Beg your pardon, Inspector? Thought to be? Yes, having been stabbed in the back by her attacker's knife, the victim fell unconscious. That was 3 days ago now. She's been comatose ever since.
What? So I don't even know who she is for sure?
Comatose, I see. But her life is not in danger.
Fortunately for the Eastern student, the charge would not be murder. Pray, elaborate on the details, Inspector.
Sir, if I could ask everyone to look at this street map. As I mentioned, the incident took place 3 days ago at around 5 in the afternoon. It happened on the pavement running alongside Briar Road, wide thoroughfare for horse-drawn vehicles. It had not long since stopped snowing as the victim, Miss Green, was walking down the street. Out of the blue, she was approached from behind by the accused and stabbed in the back. Luckily, the young lady's life was spared. She is currently being treated in one of the city's hospitals. But being unconscious as she is, we've been unable to take a statement from her, of course. This is the case file with everything we know about the victim so far. Thank you, Inspector. The court will accept the documents as evidence, if you please.
The case file has been entered into the court record. Okay. What of the weapon that was used?
Sir, I have that here. It was removed from the victim's back.
Ouch, that big thing is starting to make me scared to walk down the street now. With a heavy blade like that, almost anybody would have been able to stab the poor woman. Even the scrag-looking Saseki-san, I suppose. A common or garden jackknife, I would say. Oh, sorry. Getting my voices mixed up here. There's too many characters to voice.
Common or garden jackknife, I would say. Rather nondescript. Thank you, Inspector. The court accepts the blade as evidence.
The jackknife has been entered into the court record.
Now then, what do we know of the motive? Money or valuables, I presume? All we can tell by looking at the woman's possessions, it seems like she's a poor student herself. Hard to imagine she would have had anything much worth pinching, my lord. I see. Well, in that case, are we looking at some deep-seated resentment toward the victim? I'm afraid I couldn't say. Apart from visiting second-hand bookshops, the defendant, Mr. Natsume, doesn't appear to get out much. At this moment in time, I haven't been able to establish any sort of connection between him and the victim.
Yes! If theft and grievance have been ruled out as the motive, what reason could Mr. Natsume possibly have had for stabbing the young woman? Yet you arrested the man in spite of that, in a totally unjustified and heavy-handed way.
Objection!
Pray forgive the discourtesy of flinging a freshly uncorked bottle into the public gallery, but your words have soured its hallowed bouquet. For it is you, my learned friend, who is being heavy-handed here. What? Scotland Yard does not arrest people without good cause. That should be beyond question. Inspector Gregson, the prosecution calls for your formal testimony. Explain to the court precisely why the constabulary came to arrest the Nipponese student.
Yes, sir.
Witness testimony. Mr. Natsume's arrest.
As I said, it was 5 o'clock in the afternoon when the incident occurred, and there was an unusually light fog. Visibility was reasonably good, and there was no one else but the victim and the accused about. Out of the blue, the victim was stabbed from behind, and subsequently collapsed on the pavement. The accused ran off, scattering his belongings all over the floor. Those being a number of old books he just bought. He was on his way home from a bookshop, it seems. It was just a matter of working out who the books belonged to, and we found the bloke to arrest him.
Interesting.
Old books, you say? Yes, my lord. I have a photograph here of the scene of the crime, taken immediately after the incident. Ah, yes, I can clearly see the books to which you are referring. I will take that photographic print as evidence, please, Inspector.
The crime scene photograph is okay. The Nipponese are a spineless breed, too cowardly to admit defeat, denying everything despite overwhelming evidence to the contrary. Well, forgive me, Lord Van Sykes, but the defendant is not denying everything, as you put it. What are you doing, Mr. Sato?
Do go on.
Mr. Natsume has admitted to playing some part in the incident. Isn't that right, Mr. Naruhodo? Well, now you mention it. When we visited him in the prison yesterday, he did tell us what it all had happened. As I was walking along that accursed pavement, I could make out the sole silhouette of another ahead of me. A woman, wearing a green overcoat she was, and just as I went to overtake her, she suddenly let out a little scream and collapsed onto the cold, hard slabs of stone at my feet. I was terrified. I had to get away from there, so I ran as fast as my legs would carry me back to my accursed lodgings.
A green overcoat?
That's exactly what the woman in that print is wearing.
Oh my, a photographic print in full color. What will the world come with next?
Oh, wait a minute. Juror number 4 is the guy's wife. That seems like a conflict of interest. Right? I don't know. I'm sorry, that took me a while to hit. It's the guy from the last episode's wife. What is she doing here? The defendant has done nothing more than admit he fled the scene of a terrifying incident. This does not mean that he's guilty of the heinous crime of stabbing the woman in the back. So there was nobody else there at the time, just the two of them, the victim and the accused. In other words, there is nobody else who could possibly have stabbed the woman. In fact, that the accused concedes.
It seems this cross-examination could prove to be pivotal, counsel. Proceed, please.
Yes, my lord. Nothing for it. I have to use this cross-examination to turn the tables here. It's our only chance. I should say so, yes. Alright, Mr. Natsume's arrest. Alright, we gotta blow this open somehow. So, he went York Books, 17th February, 4:45 p.m. Customer, the sum of 2 shillings were entered in receipt of the picture of Monsieur Lecoq, a meal for Gaborio, and Canterbury Yearnings. And then there's the map of the street, Briar Road. Oh, there's... Okay, I can't really examine anything too in-depth. Case file. Details. Young woman rendered unconscious following a stab wound to the back. Victim, olive green, female, stout build, early 20s. Location, pavement of Briar Road, east side. Reporting officer Rolly Beat. Oh no, the love guru thing? I hope not. The victim remains unconscious. Her name was gleaned from her personal effects. Other details are unknown. Apart from the single stab wound from the large knife, no other signs of injury were observed. The assailant was seen running away by the reporting officer and was successfully arrested the following day. Right. Thanks to Mr. Sholmes, as we know. Alright. Let's see. Can we open this knife up? There we go. Wait a minute. The tip's missing. Let's look at this. Wait, I want to see the tip. The tip is missing. I can't find anything out of place. Let's open it up. That's odd. Can we look at that? There. Oh, look here, Mr. Naruhodo. Just at the tip. A small piece of the blade appears to be missing. You're right. Well spotted, Mrs. Sato. I wonder what could have happened to it. Yes, you don't think it could still be lodged in the victim, do you? Oh dear, I do hope not. That sounds terribly painful. That does sound painful. I don't think I would like that. Okay, that's good to know. And then a crime scene photograph. There's 3 books. And the knife in her back. Of course, there's no blood. Interestingly enough. Though I don't know if that actually means anything.
As I said, it was 5 o'clock.
Okay, and we read this already. And the incident occurred, and there was an unusually light fog. So 5 o'clock. Hang on. I want to look at something real quick. And make sure I don't hit the present button. So he bought the books at 4:45, so 15 minutes later the stabbing happened, supposedly. Visibility was reasonably good, and there was no one else about but the victim and the accused. Out of the blue, the victim was stabbed from behind and subsequently collapsed on the pavement. I mean, yeah, she was stabbed from behind, scattering his books. So. Yes, his books, right? Those being a number of old books he just bought. He was on his way home from the bookshop, it seems. Yes. Working out who the books belong to, and we found the blood to arrest him. What do you think, Mr. Naruto? If you're unable to sway the jury during this cross-examination, I'm afraid that Mr. Natsume's fate will be sealed. Yes, they're sure to find him guilty. So here's a thought. I think we should press Gregson on the books, because I'm curious if he has the names of the books, and we can compare to see if they're the same books or not. So one way or another, I have to expose an undeniable inconsistency in the inspector's testimony. I think we're going to have to press something out on this one.
Hold it!
We'll just go through in order here. A light fog, you say?
Well, light for London. You can see the opposite side of the street for once. Not much farther, though.
That's light, is it?
Around these parts, yes. Not something I'd expect from a Japanese fellow like yourself to know, of course.
I've read that London is famous for its fog. It is. But in my country, people usually imagine that gives the city a rather beautiful appearance. Not quite.
Yes, well, it's not something us Londoners tend to romanticize, as I expect you can appreciate.
I see.
Well, this time of year, the fog causes a large number of accidents, especially when it's heavy. Sometimes you can't even see your own hand at the end of your arm. Indeed, the other day I was very nearly trampled by horses before I could see the carriage they were pulling.
Susato-san and I should definitely remember to stop, look, and listen. However, on the day that concerns us, the fog was somewhat lighter than usual. A fact no doubt lamented by the accused.
Hold it!
I mean, we haven't gotten onto motive. How are you able to state that with any certainty? Quite simply, my learned friend. Because that is what the witnesses to this crime have told us. Ah, yes, Inspector Gregson mentioned the witnesses yesterday, didn't he? That's right. One of them is a policeman, I believe, from Scotland Yard.
That is correct, ma'am.
Then we must hear their testimony. The prosecution will, of course, call them to the stand, should it be necessary. But wait a minute. At 5 o'clock in the afternoon in the middle of winter, it would have been dark already. No matter how light the fog might have been, no one could have seen... I'm unaware of the situation on your tiny island in the east. But here in the capital city of Great Britain, all main roads are illuminated in the night by gas streetlights. Ah. The prosecution believes that there would have been ample light by which to witness the crime.
Quite. Here in London, for the first time in history, mankind has completely conquered the darkness.
Which means we really need to hear those witness statements. If I could just get through the fog of this cross-examination, maybe we'll be able to. It seems the counsel for the defense is ticking stock. Continue with your testimony, Inspector. Out of the blue, the victim was stabbed from behind. Yep.
Hold it!
From behind, you say?
That's right. As you can see from this print. Yes, quite so, Inspector. The handle of the weapon is clearly protruding from the victim's back. And you say this poor woman, Miss Green, remains in a critical condition, comatose no less. Afraid so, my lord, yes. Being treated at Bart's. I was hopeful that she'd come round before the trial started so I could take a statement, but it wasn't to be. Yes, that is indeed a pity. It would have been most illuminating to hear the victim's own account of events.
Luck is on your client's side, it seems. On the contrary, my client has been exceedingly unlucky. Your force of tone is seriously undermined by those disturbingly wide eyes, I'm afraid. Ugh. accused ran off, scattering his belongings.
Hold it!
Let's see what this yields. Mr. Natsume's belongings?
I think you'll find it's all there in the photographic print of the crime scene. Yes, the 3 books on the floor. That's right, my lord. Second-hand books they were. Irreparably damaged after falling in the snow, of course.
The accused could easily have carried all 3 books in one hand, which means his other hand would have been free to wield the knife, for example. He's very clever, isn't he? What do you mean? He's made it extremely hard for you to assert that Mr. Natsume had his hands full with his books. He's managed to close the one avenue of escape we might have had before we even knew it was there.
You mean to say that the defendant was holding his belongings as he thrust the knife into the woman's back? That must be what happened, my lord, yes?
The number of old books he just bought. Alright, let's see what we can get out of this. The defendant apparently visits a second-hand bookshop on a daily basis.
Yes, so I understand. A shop full of old English literature.
I commend the accused on the lofty subject matter of his scholarly attention.
The bloke's room was stacked floor to ceiling with those musty old books.
Can you tell us more about the bookshop in question, please, Inspector?
Well, if I must, I'll have to ask you to look at the street map again, I'm afraid.
Oh, he's gonna update it, isn't he?
Ah, the closest second-hand bookshop to the accused lodgings is this place here, Bourbon Books. Little place on the corner of Briar Road and Meersham Street. As it happens, the accused is currently living in lodgings on the other side of Briar Road, opposite end.
Wait a minute, Bourbon Books. Wait a minute. Your books. This was not purchased. I think we have found ourselves a contradiction.
Which means it doesn't take a genius to work out the route you would have taken out. Something like this.
The local map's information has been updated in the court record.
Yes, I concur with your conclusion, Inspector. The defendant would certainly have passed the scene of the crime on his way home from that particular shop.
Mr. Naruhodo, I think that what the inspector just told us could turn out to be of vital importance. Yes, I agree. The most important point that the inspector just made being the bookshop's name. Inspector Gregson, may I ask you a favor?
What?
Would you kindly add the name of the bookshop to your formal testimony, please? I believe it may be of vital importance.
Maybe.
Oh, well, you know, I mean, yes. It could be a very important clue.
Very well. Not that I can see it being of any great significance. But please revise your testimony accordingly, Inspector. Yes, sir, my lord. Whatever you say.
Could the man be any more sardonic?
He was on his way home from Bourbon Books, a second-hand bookshop he apparently patronizes.
Present! Objection!
Objection!
If I could just stop you there, Inspector Gregson.
What is it, sunshine? I'm a busy man, you know.
This is a receipt that we found in Mr. Natsume's room. It was issued on the day of the incident and details the purchase of 3 second-hand books.
And you found that in the accused room, did you?
Yes, but the point is not where the receipt was found, but the name of the shop printed on it. Go on. This receipt was issued from a bookshop called Your Books.
Your books? Why, I presume?
Yes, my lord. So Mr. Natsume did indeed purchase a number of books at a second-hand bookshop that day. However, the bookshop in question was not Bourbon Books.
Eh? What? Inspector, do you know of this other bookshop? Yes, sir. Your Books is another second-hand bookshop not far from Bourbon Books. It's just that, well, it's such a small place. I didn't think the accused would have known about it.
But in fact, that is the bookshop which the defendant visited on the day in question. And this receipt proves
Objection!
Yes.
But what difference it makes? Whoever the man purchases musty tomes, it makes no difference in the final analysis.
Objection!
I disagree. I mean, after all, I have the street map here if that might be of help. Oh, yes, thank you. have a look at this, please. If the defendant had been returning from bourbon books, then yes, he would almost certainly have passed the place where Miss Green was attacked. However, if we take into account the fact that he was actually at another bookshop, your books, it may very well turn out that he wouldn't have passed that location at all.
Could that be true?
My, it rather depends on where this other bookshop is, but I do declare it may be a possibility. Is that right, Mr. Lawyer, sir? Do what you just said? Absolutely. It absolutely could be right.
Inspector Gregson, where is this Your Books establishment?
Well, obviously we looked into that.
It turns out that Your Books is just here on the next corner of Meerschaum Street going east.
Ah, the local maps information has been updated in the court record. Interesting. And there you have it. As you can clearly see now... Oh. That didn't change much, did it? My learned Nipponese friend is obviously in training to be a clown, the way he regales us with such witticisms. To your future career in the circus. You put that glass down now, or I'll put it down for you.
I, didn't think I needed to spell it out, but here we go. If the accused was coming on from Your Books instead of bourbon books, there's no doubt he still would have passed the place where the victim was stabbed. Yes, thank you, Inspector.
Allow me to reiterate for my learned friend, if somewhat slow, my learned if somewhat slow Nipponese friend. Wherever the man purchased his mustard tomes, it makes no difference in the final analysis.
As I suspected, you can't fool me, and I don't suggest you try. What did I say, eh? I've had enough of this now.
Beg your pardon? Terribly sorry, but would you mind repeating that? Mr. Naruhodo, we mustn't give up. What do you mean? If the prosecution's assertion is correct, the members of the jury may well decide that Mr. Natsume is guilty. She's absolutely right. We must think. We must consider the assertion just put forward by the prosecution very, very carefully. He claims Saseki-san must have passed the location of the incident on his way home from your books, but... Technically, the shorter... I don't know. It's not out of the realm of possibility. Yes. What a waste of wine, quote-unquote. Yeah, we gotta object. The assertion just made by the prosecution is fundamentally flawed.
Explain yourself, counsel.
Yes, my lord. You can see what I mean on this map. When returning from your books and to his lodgings, Mr. Natsume could have followed the route suggested by the prosecution. However, that isn't the only conceivable route to take between the two places. If the defendant used these streets, look what happens. He arrives back at his lodgings without passing the location where the victim was.
Objection!
Talking back to a clown is a fool's errand, of course. However, I feel compelled to point out that the route is what is commonly referred to as the long way around. When I called Winter's Night, why would any man choose to take a longer route home? Well, the answer is extremely simple. He wouldn't. In other words, the accused took the obvious route back to his lodgings and is the obvious perpetrator of this crime.
Objection!
Yes, I got it. Obviously, we must ask the man himself. Ask Mr. Natsume which route he took home. If I didn't know better, yeah. I have already informed the court of the accused's responses to such questions. He claims he has no recollection. Ah.
That's right. As I said, the bloke seems to spend his time outside wandering aimlessly from A to B. That day was no exception. Says he doesn't remember where he was or which route he took out.
I don't believe this! I thank you, my learned friend. I suggest that we do not waste any more of the court's time by wandering aimlessly around this subject. Pray, what say you, insightful jurors? But even if that is the case, the defense still... Uh-oh.
I agree with Lord Van Zykes, wholeheartedly and in every way.
What? I don't believe it. Does this mean...
We members of the jury are completely convinced now. Very well. In that case, I hereby...
To the insightful members of the jury, I applaud your brave resolve, yourself queen and country admirably. Mr. Naruhodo. No, not yet. This isn't over yet. I still have one last chance to sway the opinion of the jury. I have to tip the balance of those scales the other way. I have to turn this around, somehow. Those are the eyes of a quarry, yet willing to give up and die. So I presume you intend to wield your rights again in this trial. Rights of the defense written into antiquated British law that should have been buried long ago. Call it antiquated if you will, but it's the defense's prerogative to carry out a summation examination if it so chooses.
Very well, counsel. In accordance with the letter of the law, we shall proceed with the summation examination. Are the members of the jury ready, Mr. Foreman? Of course we're ready. I'm all too familiar with that Nipponese whippersnapper and his uncle-subfusial throw in this alley. Very well, then. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, we will explain on what grounds you have determined the defendant to be guilty.
Judicial findings. The jurors' contentions.
For pity's sake, that little Nipponese oddity already admitted it himself, didn't he?
If he said that a woman in green collapsed before his eyes, why, it could only have been the victim. The man who wouldn't have gone around the houses on his way back from the bookshop, not in winter. So the poor woman was attacked from behind, was she? How dreadful.
I really don't care. Can't we just wrap this up now? I've got work to be doing.
Yellow books, yes, I saw that. But bourbon books? No, not worth a visit. Okay.
With only minor exceptions, the reasons for finding the defendant guilty are all too clear.
Then the stabbing occurred. The only two people at the scene were the victim and the accused. As the accused himself has admitted to seeing the victim in her green overcoat sink to the ground before his eyes.
Furthermore, we have heard from the inspector that the defendant then fled the scene. I must say, I would have ample grounds to convict this man already.
Oh dear, even the judge appears convinced of Mr. Natsume's guilt now. Ugh, why did he have to turn away like that? And how are we supposed to believe in some phantom attacker that nobody could see? This is impossible. How can I possibly make a case for the defense? Mr. Naruhodo, this is no time for grumbling. If we want to force the trial to continue, yes, I know, I have to turn the tide. I must make the jurors change their minds. Well, 4 of them, at least. Exactly. We have no choice but to forge forward.
You have the floor, counsel. Begin your summation examination.
Yes, my lord. All right. I just need to keep this trial going somehow, whatever it takes. Come on, Ryunosuke, you can do it. The defense's rebuttal. Say, did himself, didn't he? Okay.
Hold it!
Excuse me, but aren't you
Yes, that's right. I was in the witness stand myself just 2 days ago.
Yes, I had a feeling I knew your face, or the side of it anyway. If I remember correctly, you're a banker, aren't you?
That's right. After the gold rush down under, I came back to London to work. It was all going swimmingly until you started fussing around. Bruce Fairplay was a man of repute.
Sorry?
Don't think I've forgotten how you treated me the other day. You had me and that young hatter pegged as criminals.
Well, you know, water under the bridge.
Now there's all sorts of rumors buzzing around. The police have been badgering me non-stop.
If I could turn back the clock...
Well, anyway, I don't know about the hatter, but at least I'm in the clear now. I'm free to make up my own mind about who's guilty and who isn't.
Ah, thank goodness. Alright, maybe I might struggle to change this man's mind, given our awkward history. Oh dear, I wonder what's become of Mr. First now. Green.
Hold it!
You're right that at the time of the incident, the defendant admits to having seen someone wearing a green overcoat walking ahead of him. Well, quite. That's precisely my point. Clearly, that someone wearing green was the victim. And clearly, that funny little Nipponese man with the disturbing mustache is the culprit. But let us not forget, madam, the defendant vehemently denies attacking the woman. Why, of course he does. If he admits to stabbing her, his life is over. The man is obviously a liver-faced coward. Honestly, claiming the woman simply collapsed before his eyes. But if that's a lie, as you're suggesting, do you not think he would have concocted something more credible? Oh, I really couldn't say. After all, you are foreign. Who's to say what goes through your funny little minds? I can tell you what's going through my funny little mind right now, but you wouldn't like it. I do declare the man has already made the admission. He himself has stated that there was nobody else around. Surely the conclusion is obvious. No one else could possibly have committed this awful crime. If no one else could have done it, the accused must be the man. Really, couldn't be more simple.
The argument is compelling in its simplicity, I must admit.
Oh my, you are too kind, my lord. That went well, for her. So nothing really big there.
Hold it!
But you can't deny that there are other routes Mr. Natsume could have taken back from your books. Oh yes, like you drew on the map, you mean? What was it, Calabash Road or something? Precisely. But it seems to me that what counts is whether the little Japanese fellow actually went that way or not. Well, yes, that's true. And at that moment, there's no proof that shows he did, is there? Well, yes, that's true as well. And as I understand it, the accused himself doesn't remember which way he went, does he? Well, yes, that's annoyingly true. Winter nights are dark and cold, so the way I see it, you'd want to get home as quickly as possible. Yes, why is all this true? So really, the only thing that makes sense is that he went home along Briar Road. Ah, I'm supposed to be convincing you here. I have given it a lot of thought, you know. I didn't just make up my mind on a whim that he did. He did it. I mean, if there was some logical reason why he might have gone the Calabash Road, it'd be different. I'd be happy to reconsider my position in that case. Honestly, I would. A reason why Sasaki-san might have taken the longer way home. Yes, a good reason. I don't imagine you'll be able to sway this young man's opinion with that one. Well, the other guy, the guy at the end, said something about bourbon books not being that great, so maybe he has an opinion about bourbon books.
Hold
Let's
it!
see.
Whatever's the matter, young man?
You're the wife of Mr. Garrett, aren't you? The landlord who rents Mr. Natsume's room.
The master's wife? Where do you get such ideas, sir? I'm the maid. The maid, you understand.
She's keeping up that charade? Ugh, this is going to be awkward. Why didn't you mention this yesterday, that you'd been selected for the jury in this trial, I mean? Well, I was told not to mention it to anyone until the day of the trial, you see. I was in the letter I was received. The instructions were very clear. I'm afraid I had no choice. I see. Anyway, Mr. Natsume, the defendant, takes lodging in your master's house, doesn't he? Yes, that's right. Although he's only been in a little over a week now. And in that time, surely you must have taken stock of his character. Does Mr. Natsume look like the kind of man who would commit such a crime? Oh my goodness me, yes, he's just the sort. What? Spending all his time in that dark and dingy room, sporting that unscrupulous mustache. man never speaks. Don't get me started on those shifty eyes. All the neighbors are talking about him. I've heard them, you know. People think he must be building a bomb in there or something. Oh dear, poor Mr. Natsume. How could people say such things about him? He's just a harmless bookworm, nothing more. Well, you just called him a worm, so... Anyway, I'd better be careful about inviting this maid to speak. She's said enough damning things already. Let's see.
Hold it!
This guy. A man's life is on the line here, sir. This will take as long as it takes.
Don't get clever with me now, son. My life's on the line too, and so is my family's.
Ah,
The likes of you wouldn't understand, but a laborer like me can't afford to take time off. If I don't work, I don't eat, and neither do the wife and kids.
oh, I see. That must be very hard.
I go to the union every morning to find out what needs doing. If you're late and the work's taken, it's tough. This time of year, there's water and gas supply pipes bursting left, right, and center. They're after cheap labor to get the roads dug up to fix it. It's a hard slog from dawn till dusk days.
So, you were out digging up the roads on the day of the incident as well, were you?
That's right. In fact, if I remember rightly, it was just round the corner from where it all happened. By that old bookshop it was.
What? Another coincidence.
That's right, Meersham Street it was.
Meersham Street. On the map, Mr. Naruhodo, there's only 3 named streets. Juror number 5, I need you to add that information to your formal statement, please.
What's the point in that? Can't we just get this business over with now?
Please, sir. It's important. Oh, this is interesting.
Fine, I'll do it then.
Where's Meersham Street? Oh. Oh. I see. If Meersham's... Okay, so if Meersham Street here is, goofed up, then... Yeah. There's no way he could have gone that way. So he had to go by Calabash Road. Yep. We'll get back to you in a second. Why is this shop not worth a visit? Let's see. Sorry? Fold it, you say? Fold what? No. What I said was hold it. What I wanted to ask was, do you visit your books often? I like the old books they have in there, yes. I enjoy reading them over a nice cup of old tea. That's my daily routine, you see. Same thing every day, including the day you're all talking about. And at what time did you visit your books on the day in question? Well, I was picking out books in there all afternoon, and it would have been just before 5 that I left. That's my daily routine, you see. Same thing every day, including the day you're all talking about. Just before 5, you say? Exactly when the victim was attacked. Are you sure about the time? Oh yes, no mistake there. I remember it well. I'm not about to forget that day in a hurry. Not after the dreadful time I had. What do you mean? Well, I was walking down Calabash Road when I slipped on the ice and donked my head. It's always worse after the snow stopped falling. That's when it's most slippery. Knocked myself clean out, I did. I really thought my number was up. Wait a minute. Let me get this straight. This happened on Calabash Road? That's right. I live in Cornpipe, you see. Heading down Calabash Road is the quickest way for me to get back from your books. Juror number 6, I must insist that you add that information to your formal statement. It may very well be extremely significant. Sorry? Extremely sick? No, I'm quite alright now. It sends a shiver down my spine to hear the members of the jury so convinced of Mr. Natsume's guilt. But I can't help feeling that some of their opinions are rather subjective. I agree, it's the irrelevance of what some of them are saying that sends a shiver down my spine. Still, at least some of their assertions don't actually incriminate Mr. Natsume of anything. That's something. We must use that to our advantage, Mr. Naruhodo. Cunningly. Yes, you're right. Let's listen to the jurors again carefully. Alright. Well, we have one that's at odds, sort of. That one's easy enough. Alright. Pit.
Objection.
Yeah. These two statements are clearly at odds with one another.
At odds, counsel? Explain yourself.
Please, don't point. It wasn't me, I swear.
Hey, what? I just want to get this done and dusted.
Well, juror number 3... Oh, me, sir? What do you mean? Juror number 5's words just now were extremely significant. Let's take a moment to consider the implications of what's been said on our map of the local area. On the day in question, Mr. Natsume visited this bookshop to purchase a number of secondhand books, and on the same day, we now know that there were works being carried out on Meersham Street, making it impassable, which means that the defendant's route home could not have taken him along Meersham Street and down Briar Road. Oh, yes, of course! Wait, what do you think, sir?
Well, yes, you can't argue with that, really, can you? We must have had a good 2 yards or more of the pavement up. Every gentleman and gentlewoman that came along there turned back and go the other way.
So, the only conclusion is this. The defendant must have taken the longer route back to his lodgings. Yes, I suppose he must have.
I suppose that must be right, eh?
Juror number 3, you said the following. The man who wouldn't have gone around the houses on his way back from the bookshop. But, we see now that he had no choice. Yes! My lord, Mr. Judge, sir, if I may.
Yes?
I don't think in all good conscience that I can say the man's guilty now. Yes, I'd like to see this trial continue so we can get to the bottom of what really happened. What about you, sir?
Hey, well, me? Well, alright then. If there's a hole in the prosecution's argument, it should be filled in, that's what I say.
This guy's really into digging holes. Oh, well done, Mr. Naruhodo. That was wonderful. Well, we've managed to change a couple of minds at least, and strengthened our position somewhat. Yes, and it will prompt the other members of the jury to reconsider their stance as well. They'll be asking themselves if their current leanings are really right or not. Now, if we could just identify one more clue or discrepancy that would make them stop doubting Mr. Natsume, we might be able to tip the balance completely. Yes, that's exactly what we've got to do. Van Zykes is looking to bring this trial to an early conclusion. That's what we have to prevent, by whatever means we have at our disposal.
Thank you, counsel. On with the summation examination, please.
Yes, my lord. To say... So he slipped. Changed 2 of the jurors' minds, Mr. Naruhodo. Yes, just 2 more to go. Deliver the finishing blow now. It's time to turn the tables here. I should know how to do a Sasato takedown. I suppose words will have to suffice for now. So probably Mr. Fairplay is not going to be on our side. Hang on.
Objection.
Yeah. What if he was the cute woman in green, quote unquote? These 2 statements clearly show a flaw in the juror's reasoning.
Flaw? What are you talking about, counsel?
Well, juror number 2, juror number 6. Hey, whatever do you mean, sir? I think perhaps the old man didn't hear you. Unbelievable. It's not like I was loud or anything. There is at least one fact of which we can be sure here. The bookshop receipt found in the... Can you be sure of that, madam? My, whatever do you mean? I'm sure you heard juror number 6's account of what happened to him that day. That same afternoon, there was somebody else apart from the victim who was wearing a green overcoat and who fell over on the icy streets in the neighborhood. Oh my. My goodness, you mean... That's right. I'm referring, of course, to hard of hearing juror number 6. Are you really suggesting that the person in the green overcoat whom the defendant saw collapse in front of his eyes was the jolly old gentleman at the end of the bench here with me today? That is entirely possible, yes. After all, the old man has a somewhat similar build to the victim.
Oh, look at that.
My goodness me. Sorry, you need to pee? And crucially, We know precisely where the old man in the green overcoat fell. On Calabash Road. Therefore, the person who Mr. Natsume saw collapsing in front of him was in fact juror number 6. It means the defendant must have taken the long route back to his lodgings. And if that's true, then clearly the crime scene on Briar Road where the woman was stabbed was not on his way home. Oh my.
Idiot old man. If he hadn't been so daft as to be roaming about there, we'd have boxed this off hours ago.
And really, what were you thinking wearing such a befuddling coat?
What did you say to me?
It is a crime for the elderly to walk the streets these days, Is it a crime to slip over the ice? Is it a crime to keep up with the latest styles and wear a beautiful green overcoat, is it? My lord, I do hope it won't cause any inconvenience, but...
You'd like to change your leaning, I presume?
I do declare that I would. I should like to call for a verdict of not guilty. Thank you.
And I would too!
What?
Is it a crime to change your mind, is it? Well?
Yes, the jury. Most of the jury are now witnesses, I think.
Well, that summation examination has concluded with a rather large shift in opinion. The eyes 2, the nose 4, so the eye and nose have it. Not guilty, they say, which means we no longer have a consensus among the members of the jury. The trial will continue.
Objection!
Could it seem churlish of me to drink from my hallowed chalice moments after raising an objection? Only to crush it in disgust. Pray forgive the discourtesy. Lord Van Zykes. It seems I must retract my earlier remark. What do you mean? I mistakenly credited these jurors with intelligence by describing them as insightful. And yet we have just witnessed them falling for a cheap trick performed by an Eastern entertainer.
Eh?
Whatever do you mean?
Objection!
I haven't tricked anyone. Everything I've said is the truth. Indeed. Stalwart juror number 5 was undoubtedly repairing the road, as he claims. I believe you said it was a good 2 yards of the pavement which you had excavated, sir.
That's right. Took me the whole day, and they paid me a measly tuppence for it.
Now, my learned Nipponese friend, tell me, do you have any notion of the distance that 2 yards represents? Well, if I'm honest, I don't have a clue, no. 2 yards is a little less than 2 meters. Less than 2 meters, that's not much at all. In other words, a distance readily vaulted by anyone of moderate vigor. Would you not agree, my stalwart friend?
Me? Well, I can't say you're wrong, no.
What? And did you perchance erect a sign to prevent pedestrians from passing the site of your works?
I wouldn't dream of it. What a waste of time. No coaches would have had to help passing anyway. We just turned any gentlefolk back when they came. Kids just jump right over us all the time.
The accused is no gentleman, as far as I can see. I have little doubt, however, that he could spring over a 2-yard trench in his meanderings around town. Ah! Yes, he's probably great at throwing shade because he needs it so much, yes.
Is that true, is it?
The incontrovertible truth is that the books just purchased by the accused were found at the scene. There can be no doubt that on his way back to his lodgings, Mr. Natsume walked down Prior Road. Crushed in a single sentence. And, old man.
Cold man, you can talk.
You say that at around 5 o'clock on the day in question, you slipped and fell on Calabash Road. Pray, was there a suspicious-looking Nipponese behind you at the time?
Oh, I can't say as I remember.
You don't remember? How about the wager, my learned friend? You say it was this old man that the accused saw, but I would lay 1,000 to 1 against you being able to prove it.
Hold on, Lord Van Zykes. Explain yourself.
My lord,
If you had such a trenchant argument up your sleeve, why in the world did you not proffer it during the summation examination?
I wanted to give this young foreign student the sightseeing experience he no doubt came for. I wanted him to see for himself how the opinion of the jury is so readily swayed. But my hospitality has its limits, and they have been reached, I feel. Oh no! So, my learned friend, today's sightseeing tour of London is now over. What are you talking about? My lord, the prosecution requests permission to call its next witnesses to the stand.
Granted. Bailiff, bring forth the witnesses.
Its next witnesses? Mr. Naruhodo, do you not remember? We've been told on several occasions that there were eyewitnesses to the incident. Yes, I remember, one of them being a Scotland Yard policeman, no less. I'm afraid that's likely to be the prosecution's next witness. Alright, no matter who Van Zykes brings to the stand as he witnesses, no matter what they say, I believe in Saseki-san. I know he's innocent, and I'll keep believing to the very end until this battle is over. What the heck? Witnesses, please state your names and occupations for the court. Constable Rowley Beat, sir? Nothing to report on the streets, sir. And I'm Mrs. Beat. Patricia is my name. And I'm proud to say I'm this young town hero's wife. What's the story here? Well, in truth, we've not been married long. In fact, we celebrated our first anniversary only the other day. No, it was your husband I was asking about. He seems tired. Oddly surprising. Whilst being an honorable occupation, patrolling the beat is the most demanding work in the world. Oh, really? I'm sure I've heard that before, actually.
Indeed, apart from rare days off, our gallant officers trudge some 20 miles a day, you know. They patrol boarding houses and pubs, collect taxes, survey the streets, check that meters are reading true, and they're responsible for keeping the streets clean and lighting and extinguishing our streetlights.
There are a number of items in the list that don't sound much like policing duties at all. I wouldn't just be falling asleep on my feet. I'd have collapsed long ago. He doesn't look tired, though. He looks, Yes, we are being assailed by the incompetent and the cute. But it goes without saying that the policeman's primary duty is the apprehension of criminals. Even when he's off duty, a constable is expected to investigate and resolve any crimes on his beat. For the London Bobby is a man of honor. And a man of slumber. On the day in question, this man and his wife were walking down Briar Road in the opposite direction, and they witnessed the incident as it occurred. Is that not correct, Mr. and Mrs. Beat? That's right, sir. Isn't it, Rowley? Constable Rowley Beat, sir! Nothing to report on the street, sir! What a great witness he's gonna be.
Very good. I'd like to hear your formal testimonies now, please. You will tell the court exactly what you saw on the afternoon of the incident.
Yes, sir! What the witnesses saw. It was our wedding anniversary and Rowley was taking me out for a meal. There was no time to change after work. Anyway, two silhouettes appeared out of the fog on the pavement in front of us. All of a sudden, one of them just collapsed on the floor, and the other scattered something before running off. We ran straight over, of course, and then went for help at a nearby police box. It was definitely that Japanese man in the dock, and Rory and I both saw him clear as day.
Well, this is extremely compelling testimony, I must say.
Oh dear, this policeman and his wife are claiming to have positively identified Mr. Natsume at the scene. If their testimony is true, the alternative course of events that you established in the summation examination will be quashed. It's death knell, in fact. because that alternative was never viable in the first place.
What an unfortunate chancing. And on your wedding anniversary, too.
Oh, I know, but I still managed to go out for the evening with my man. Thank the Lord for that. Gosh, the life of a London bobby sounds very hard indeed.
Indeed. However, this course examination will be over in minutes. We will have time to rest this afternoon.
What do you mean by that?
My learned friend, the witnesses saw the face of the man fleeing the scene. They are testifying under oath that it was without doubt the accused, Mr. Suseki Natsume.
And one of these witnesses is a policeman, no less. So we appreciate the gravity of the situation, I'm sure. Except that the man's so tired, his wife has to do all the talking.
Enough preamble. Counsel for the defense, commence the cross-examination, please.
Yes, my lord. What the witnesses saw. It was our wedding anniversary and Rolly was taking me out for a meal. Okay, yeah, it is. Well, let's just keep it. No time to change after work, you say. Are you also a member of the police, Mrs. Bede? Oh no, sadly not. It's a job for strapping young men only. Women, children, and the elderly can't even apply. Well, I think you can probably see why children and the elderly can't do the job, can't you? I think Rolly looks ever so handsome in his uniform. It suits you down to the ground, doesn't it, darling? What? I just finished my beat. Pat and I were heading back to the station. I was actually planning on getting changed there. Is he talking in his sleep? This is creepy. Oh no, Rolly, I much prefer you in uniform. Sometimes, I don't recognize you when I see you when plain clothes. Oh dear, that doesn't seem healthy.
Kindly adhere to the point. You were going for a meal after you'd finished your beat for the day, correct?
That's right, sir. Yes, although I was fit to drop, to be honest, after spending the whole day on my feet. The policing is my life, sir. As long as I'm the proud owner of this, I'll serve my city and my queen to the end. What's that now? My warrant card, sir, proof that I'm a London copper. It has the noble founding principles of the force written on it, as a reminder to all us policemen of our sworn duty to patrol the streets of London town and uphold the peace of the common man. Sir, and for such a noble cause I cover 20 miles every single day without fail and without a grumble. Because I know that the parting of my boots is all Londoners need to hear to feel safe and secure. So, fighting crime doesn't appear to come into it then. But sir, just on that one particular day I was looking forward to celebrating my wedding anniversary. Mrs. Beat puts up with a lot being married to a bobby like me. I wanted to show my dear wife how much I care. Oh, Pat. Oh, Rolly. Oh, what a charming couple. Their young love is such a joy to behold. If a little over the top, perhaps.
And then, kindly describe what happened next.
Hold it!
Two silhouettes? That's right, they were coming towards us, walking up Briar Road in the opposite direction. There was a rather plump figure, followed by a scrawny, thin-looking man. That does sound exactly like the victim is pictured in this print, and like Mr. Matsume. Yes, unfortunately, it does. I'm just certain that at that time there was nobody else nearby. Oh yes, quite certain. It was dark, but there are streetlights on Briar Road, you see. There was nobody else around at all. Isn't that right, my darling? What? Yes, that's right. Of course, there was a light fog on the ground. The Briar Road is dead straight. You could see a fairly long way down the pavement. And then there's the street light, and as well, I didn't see any other pedestrians. Before sleep takes us from home, your answer please, Mr. Beat. Are you quite sure of what you've just said? Yes, sir. There's a couple who spends all day every day keeping watch on the streets outside Switzerland, sir. Am I sure? As my love for Patricia is true. Oh, Pet. Oh, Rolly. They're still maintaining there was no one else around other than the victim and the attacker. Starting to seem like that must be really how it happened. It's beginning to seem like there's nowhere to run. Well, that didn't stop Mr. Natsume, did it? He fled the scene all too convincingly.
Thank you. I believe we have a reasonably clear idea of the situation just before the incident now. What happened in the crucial moments that followed?
Hold it!
Scattered something? What do you mean by that? Oh, well, I couldn't quite make out what it was at the time, but then when we got closer we realized what it was. Didn't we, darling? What? Yes, that's right. It was some old books.
I see. Old books.
Yes, sir. The culprit had dropped a number of them around where the victim lay on the pavement.
Indeed, as clearly pictured in this photographic print.
That rotten Japanese man did when he did the deed. Let's not forget that it remains to be established that the defendant was indeed the attacker. But we saw him. It was the man in the dock, without question, sir. The mustache, the hunchback, the cat-like eyes, the top mouth, the snub nose. Everything. Any more insults you want to throw in? That's right, he looked down at that poor defenseless woman with those terrifying, intense eyes, and then suddenly threw his books onto the pavement and ran away. I see. This is tough. They seem as though they're telling the truth here. May I remind the court that this unambiguous testimony comes from a policeman and his wife. Now please, continue. Yes, sir! Of course, then went for the nearby police box.
Hold it!
Was it your husband who went to fetch help? No, I went. I may not be a police officer myself, but I am the proud wife of one after all. Isn't that right, my darling? What? Yes, that's right. I asked Mrs. Beat to go. I was off duty by that point, but a Bobby's never truly off duty, of course. I felt obliged to stay and guard the scene.
Very laudable, Mr. Beats. Preserving the scene of a crime is a task of considerable importance.
That's why I sent Patricia, you see. I told her where to find the right police box. Forgive my ignorance, but what do you mean exactly by the right police box? Depends on a crime's location, you see, as to who deals with it. Where the woman was stabbed wasn't actually on my beat. So I told Patricia the way to the police box where the beat the incident fell under, so she could go. I ran there as quickly as I could and asked for help from the Bobby on duty. There's nothing more potent than a young couple in love working together, you know. And thanks to a swift response, the case was quickly resolved. The actions of two model citizens. Oh, please, you're making us blush, isn't he, darling? Yes, sir. What Patricia said, sir. Let's move on, shall we?
Hold it!
But surely you wouldn't have been able to see his face by the light of the gas street lamps, would you? We absolutely could. Us Londoners have exceptional eyesight, I'll have you know. Right. The light from the street lamps was more than enough, and my husband already told you that the fog was only light, didn't he? Yes. And what of the fog?
We're famous for it across the globe, I believe. But it's an absolute menace to those who have to live with it, of course.
Oh, it is, it is. It's thick, you can't even see the hand at the end of your own arm. Yes, alright, I take your point. Now, could you stop shaking your husband about? The constant fog makes your eyes very sharp, you see? That's why we can tell you for sure and certain that it was that little Japanese man we saw. Can't we, darling? What? Yes, it was the accused and no mistake. The mustache, the hunchback, the cat-like eyes, the top mouth, the snub nose. Unmistakable, sir? As far as this couple's testimony is concerned, there can't be any question. It was Sasaki-san they saw running away from the scene of the crime. So that's it, is it? That's their entire testimony? What do you think, Mr. Naruhodo? Well, I hate to admit it, but on hearing the testimony, it really does seem as though Mr. and Mrs. Beats saw what they say they saw. Mr. Natsume running away from the scene on Briar Road that day? Yes, I feel the same. So if that's true, where does it leave us? The members of the jury are sure to call for a guilty verdict after this testimony. Oh no! Then what do? If Kazuma-sama were here, what are you trying to say? I think he would try to find a contradiction somewhere else within their testimony. What do you mean, somewhere else? Their statements about seeing Mr. Natsume is unequivocal. Calling that into question won't help, but if you could identify some other part of their testimony which appeared to contradict the facts, you might be able to discredit them, to make the jury doubt if the pair's memory of the day is accurate. Oh, right. Put simply, we must focus on finding a discrepancy in these statements somewhere. If we don't, I'm afraid the trial may reach an early and unfavorable conclusion. Ugh, why do I always seem to be so up against it? Mr. Lawyer, sir, can I ask you something? Yes, of course. What is it? You keep asking us all these questions about everything we've told you, so... It seems like you don't believe our testimony, is that right, is it? Well, out with it. What? No. Oh no, it's really not that at all. My husband's a policeman, remember, and I know what I saw. I remember every last detail, everything, like... Oh, I know. What about the books the man dropped? I could tell you the names of every single one I could, every single one. And you dare to question how reliable my testimony is. Tell us the names, tell us the names. Tell us the names. That will do, Miss... No, it won't do at all. The Japanese lawyer has no idea what I'm capable of. Even if I decide to forgive him for insulting us, don't think for a minute that Rolly will. You didn't mean to cause offense. Please put your husband's fists down.
Perhaps you would like the opportunity to supplement your testimony, Mrs. Beat. Might that appease you?
Oh, thank you, my lord. That will settle things nicely. Wouldn't it, darling? The names of the 4 books you dropped at the scene. Well, tell us! Yes, we know that there were books dropped at the scene of the crime, as you say. Those purchased by the accused at the nearby second-hand bookshop on the day in question. After I'd been to the police box for help, I decided to have a good look over the area for good measure. And I'm a proud policeman's wife after all. I did it for Rolly. And what was your husband doing at the time? Well, he was lying face down in the snow, getting some well-deserved rest. Okay. He works ever so hard, you know. Ever so hard, don't you, my darling? Interesting way of guarding the scene of the crime.
Well, Mrs. Beach, seeing as you've regaled the court with tales of your powers of recollection, would you be so kind as to recount the titles of the books you observed in the scene?
I'd be happy to. Now, are you all listening? There was the picture of Monsieur somebody or other, and what's it, yearnings, and then there was a meal for someone, and the last one was definitely the thing gummies something. There's a 4th book. Look at this. There's only 3 books. So there's 3 books plus 1. There's 1 extra book. You see? Yes, I see there are 1 or 2 holes in your memory. Oh well, they were along those lines, I'm quite sure. There were indeed books found at the scene with titles along those lines, as you put it. Well, what did I tell you? So I think it's very mean the way you've been implying that my testimony can't be trusted. Don't you agree, darling? Anyone who upsets my Patricia will have to answer to... will have me to answer to. Terrifying. Yes, she really is. So that's it, is it? That's their entire testimony. Hang on. So, Kazuma... So we gotta find the contradiction. Alright, hang on. Shinsengumi. There.
Objection!
So, you're saying that there were 4 books? That's right, I remember all of them. The picture of Munch or somebody, What's It Yearnings, a meal for someone, and the Thingagami something. I'm sorry, Mrs. Bede, but there is a fundamental flaw in that statement of yours. Oh no, what flaw? Simply that at the scene of the crime, there were only 3 books, not 4. What? This is the receipt from the bookshop where the defendant bought his books. Your books? Yes, and it details Mr. Natsume's purchases that day. But as you can see, only 3 books are listed. Only 3, but no, that can't be. I remember seeing them. There were 4 books, I tell you, 4 dirty old books. Oh, really? Have a good look at this photograph of the scene of the crime. As you can clearly see from this evidence as well, there were only 3 books. But I just don't believe it. I saw them there, I swear it, I saw them. No, madam, I'm afraid your powers of observation cannot be relied upon. So it cannot be denied. Although you say it was the defendant you saw, you could very well be mistaken. Oh no, oh no, oh no, oh no. No!
Objection!
It's plainly evident that it is your powers of deduction that cannot be relied upon, my learned Nipponese friend. What? What cannot be denied is that these 2 witnesses saw the accused running from the scene, a fact that you know very well you have no hope of disproving. So you've striven to avert attention from that by dint of some inconsequential discrepancies. Would that be fair? He sees right through me. But your plan is somewhat recoiled against you. What are you talking about? It's quite simple. Let me explain with a toast. It was a policeman's wife and her entirely accurate testimony in every respect. Oh. You see, the matter is not up for debate. The scene on Briar Road, a total of 4 books were most definitely found.
Objection!
But what about the photographic print? It only shows 3 books. Quite right. Only 3 can be seen in that print. A print? You mean to say... Allow me to present another, one that shows the victim's hand. The Lion's Pride. I don't believe it. It's the 4th book. As you will observe, the 4th book was hidden from view in the original print by the victim's torso. No. No!
Order! Order!
There, you see, look at that. Look. Yes. It's just like I said, isn't it, my darling?
Yes, sir. Patricia's always right, sir.
Let us study the receipts for the books purchased by the accused on the day in question. Mrs. Bede, the titles once again, if you please. Oh yes, of course. The picture of Moncho somebody or other. The picture of Moncho Lecoq. What's It Yearnings? Canterbury Yearnings. A meal for someone. A meal for Gabriel, in fact. As the court has just heard, the witness remembers the book titles flawlessly, save for a few minor details. Mrs. Bede's powers of recollection will only be described as exceptional. Did you hear that, Rolly? The gentleman paid me a compliment. Yes, sir. Flawless, sir. Patricia is flawless. But there are only 3 books on the receipt, and Mrs. Bede mentioned 4. There's nothing surprising about that. Clearly, the 4th book is shown in this photographic print. I'm sorry, counsel, but does that not seem odd? Why should the 4th book be omitted from the receipt? It's not odd at all, my lord. As the photograph clearly shows, the 4th book was found in the victim's clutches. In other words, it belongs to the victim. The victim was holding her own book? I wonder what became of that 4th book. Obviously, it wasn't overlooked by the investigating officers at Scotland Yard. I have it here as evidence.
You will submit that in the aforementioned photographic print to the court, please, Counsel.
My pleasure, my lord. The second crime scene photograph has been entered in the court record. The fourth book has been entered in the court record. Does it look like there's an edge torn off of it in the picture, though? The prosecution rests. I have nothing further to add. What? You seem surprised, my learned friend. But your resistance until now has been in vain. Entertaining, yes, but futile. The spurious, longer route to the accused lodgings that you tried to establish in your summation and examination, and the attempted discrediting of the witness's powers of recollection in your cross-examination. Futile? I walked right into this, didn't I? You see, everything we've said is true. Isn't that right, my darling? Yes, Pat, marry me, Pat. So, perhaps the ladies and gentlemen of the jury would like to reconsider their positions. Should the court waste any more time on this Nipponese travesty? Or is the decision you want to make all too apparent already? You have heard all the witnesses and seen all of the evidence. This trial has run its course. Mr. Naruto, I'm afraid we're in a terribly precarious position. I know, but if I fight back in the wrong way now, I could very well just make matters worse. Think, Ryunosuke, think! What do you do now? Save first. Okay. I need to look at the court record fast. Alright, let's see. Do I have the lines? But what is that? Yeah, there's a corner torn off of the book. There definitely is. But this book is in... Oh, no, it isn't. There we go. Oh, look at this. The book has been badly burnt. You're right. You'd never be able to read it in this state, especially not the later pages. What a terrible waste. Judging from the scorched edges of the paper, I think the damage must have occurred very recently. A book recently damaged by fire. Why does that seem to raise a red flag with me? Yup. Can we object based off of that? Let's do it.
Objection!
I'm not done yet. No, my learned friends. It's over. Your insignificant little Eastern Isle must be a lawless hole indeed. For a lowly judicial assistant to have the audacity to intervene at a moment like this. Oh. I am, to my shame, still a very inexperienced lawyer. So you will have to forgive me, but I consider my assistant's advice essential and her opinions invaluable. Mr. Naruto.
One of this land's great guiding principles is tolerance, so the court will hear you, madam.
Go ahead, Mr. Sato, please. Very well. Pray, what insight can you give us? What have we all overlooked in this matter that you see it fit to pursue further? Well, the court has been presented with new evidence, but only after the last cross-examination finished.
I see. And you believe that this new evidence warrants further examination, do you?
Mr. Naruto, what do you think? It's just possible that this new evidence might be the decisive proof we've been waiting for. The judge is sure to ask the members of the jury to announce their leanings in a moment. And of course, he's sure to ask you to explain what the crucial piece of evidence is and why. So we must take this opportunity to examine the newly presented evidence as thoroughly as possible. I think we did that already. Yes, I understand. And thank you, Mrs. Sato. This is it. Mrs. Sato-san has managed to win us one last chance here. I can't let it go to waste. The defense wishes to present evidence, my lord.
Very well. The defense may present one further piece of evidence. Evidence that apparently offers a profound insight into the case has hitherto been overlooked.
It's gotta be the fourth book.
Take that!
The evidence in question is what we can see from the newly presented photographic print of the crime scene. The fourth book found in the victim's hand.
Objection!
We have already discussed the fourth book at length. Other than it being in the victim's grasp at the time of the incident, no significance has been attached to it. Pursuing the matter further would be a flagrant waste of the court's time, as you well know.
Yes, I'm afraid, counsel, I must concur with the prosecution on this matter. When I afforded you this opportunity, you led the court to believe that the evidence in question contained a hitherto undiscovered clue. So I must insist that you collaborate, counsel. You identify this clue at once. Do I make myself clear?
Yes, my lord. It's, Mr. Naruhodo. I believe the prosecution is trying to avoid a thorough examination of the evidence, which means you may very well be on the right track. Yes, I think you might be right.
So, counsel, precisely where is the vital clue in this case, which this fourth book conceals?
Got it!
Right there. I would ask the court to observe the back of the book in question.
The back. Good gracious. It's been burnt to a crisp.
So we have to ask ourselves, why was the victim clutching what is clearly an unreadable book? It's undeniably an extremely unnatural thing for her to have been doing. Save scum,
Objection.
yes. Unnatural, you say? And what of it, my Nepalese friends? Oh. Were I to concede the point, it bears no relation to the case, there is nothing to discuss. So should you wish to assert that this fire damage is some veiled clue as to what happens that day, pray to enlighten us all. What truth does this shard book hide? A charred book. There is just one possibility here, which I can't quite bring myself to rule out. It's an outside chance, certainly, but worth a try. Alright, I'll explain my theory.
Don't keep us waiting any longer then, counsel. Explain this theory of yours. What are you suggesting that you can ascertain from the fire damage the sorry tome is suffering?
Its owner. My lord, the burn on the back of this book reveals a startling truth about the book's owner.
I beg your pardon?
But we already know who the book belongs to. The victim was gripping it in her hand as she fell to the floor. After all, it's obviously hers. The question of how this book came to be in the victim's hand is yet to be answered. However, as to the questions of who the book really belongs to and where it originated, the defense has very credible answers.
Good gracious! How can you possibly?
Very well. We'll play along with this futile attempt to delay your inevitable demise. But do remember, the members of the jury may well burn if your little gamble goes awry.
Counsel, the defense's response here is very unlikely to influence the final outcome of this trial. So tell the court, who do you claim is the owner of this burnt book?
It's gotta be John Garadeb.
Take that!
The answer is that the book belongs to the couple who own the house where the defendant has his lodgings. A certain Mr. and Mrs. Garadeb.
The landlords?
And whether this is some extraordinary coincidence or some kind of fate at work, I don't know, but of all the people in London, one of the 6 chosen for jury duty in this courtroom today is none other than Mrs. Garadeb herself. Oh my goodness me! I think you must be mistaken, sir. I'm not Mr. Garadeb's wife, I'm his maid! Things would be so much easier if you would just drop the pretense. Alright then, how about a simple question for you? Have you ever seen this book in Mr. Garadeb's house? Oh, I would never presume to know all the books he keeps up.
Objection!
This is outlandish behavior. This woman is the accused landlady, you say. Implicate this hard-working member of the public. You dismiss her without a shred of evidence. Your actions are unforgivable.
Objection!
This is not mere conjecture. The defense happens to know. And on the day in question, at almost exactly the same time as the victim was stabbed on the pavement below, another incident was taking place in the room on the top floor of Mr. and Mrs. Garradeb's house.
Good lord. What sort of incident, Counsel?
A fire, my lord.
Afraid to say it was. Happened the blink of an eye, you know? The whole place filled with smoke. Couldn't see a bally thing. Didn't take long for the fire to spread, of course. Bally furniture started going up as well. The worst of it is, I lost my favorite, a book called The Lion's Pride.
Aha! The Lion's Pride.
By Jove, the very same title is the subject of this debate.
Oh, dear me!
Objection!
This is risible. All you have told the court is that the book by the same name was involved in a fire. In which case, it would be reasonable to assume that it was burnt to ashes. And entirely unreasonable to infer that it magically removed itself to the scene of the crime.
Perhaps it would make more sense if I told you that the cause of the fire was marital discord. Without going into details, it appears that Mrs. Garradeb was considerably enraged. Apparently, she continued to attack Mr. Garradeb even amid the flames. Oh, wow, awful! I can't even imagine being so horrid to the one you love. Can you, Rowley? Absolutely not, sir! My Patricia would never raise a finger against me, sir!
Had all my favourite old novels in that case. But as soon as the fire got hold of him, that was it. Whoosh, up in smoke. And the wife started hurling things at me. There was I, back up against the window, under heavy enemy fire. Incendiary books coming 10 to the dozen. The man had his back up against the window, and he had burning books thrown out. Goodness gracious! Are you suggesting that the book was thrown through a window and landed coincidentally at the scene of the crime?
Objection!
No, a thorough investigation of the surrounding area was conducted the very evening of the incident, and there was no report of the Garradeb's window pane being broken. That's quite true. He also saw no sign of broken glass when he visited the Garradeb household. But is it not conceivable that the window was open at the time?
Not even remotely.
Let us not forget the season, the chilling weather that accompanies it.
No Londoner would ever leave a window open in the middle of winter.
Ah! Does the defense postulate this scenario?
In all seriousness, counsel,
Do you earnestly claim that the book found at the scene was a flaming projectile thrown by Mr. Garradeb's wife? I believe it's a possibility, my lord.
it's quite enough.
Who said that? Oh! Well, I hope that everyone can see you for what you are now, you little foreign trickster! You call yourself a lawyer, but you're just a coward. A mean coward! Really? Claiming that our little tiff set the whole neighborhood alight, honestly? Implying that I'm merely posing as a maid for appearance's sake. Oh, how could you? I had nothing to do with this beastly case, nor did it, or even to sully our family's name. No, I assure you, that was never my intention. Dragging an upstanding citizen's name through the mud simply to divert attention from your failing defense. I should box your ears, that's what I should do. It's utterly unforgivable.
Too right.
Here we go.
How long have we sat here now listening to this Nipponese sprouting out his fancy foreign theories? But think about it. At the end of the day, the only person who could possibly have stabbed the victim is that little hunchback with the mustache. He ran away from the scene, too.
I do declare you're right. It's true.
Yes, what did I tell you? Makes sense to me.
Sorry? What's that? Yeah. They smoke from... Yeah, they absolutely would. We're gonna save again. Just feeling, savey.
Well, it would appear that the ladies and gentlemen of the jury are once again in full agreement. What is your position, Lord Van Zykes?
But they haven't changed their votes yet. In truth, my lord, I feel these have been unnecessarily protracted proceedings. But then, one must always exercise patience in order to save us the best vintage. No, wait! The mystery of the fourth book still hasn't been... Oh, no. If books are your predilection, my learned friend, study them on your own time. He's telling us to talk to the boot. What? No forgive the discourtesy this time?
In that case, ladies and gentlemen of the jury, will you now state your individual decisions regarding the defendant's culpability for the court to hear?
Guilty!
Guilty.
Guilty!
Guilty.
Guilty!
Guilty.
So we have to do another examination.
Thank you for that ambiguous response.
It's twice now. It's over. Mr. Naruhodo, don't give up. Mr. Sato, have you forgotten? The battle isn't over yet. You're not suggesting... Of course. The defense has the right to another summation examination at this point. You can still convince the jurors to change their minds. You still have one more chance. My lord, the defense asks to exercise its right to a summation examination. You believe you still have tricks up your sleeve. I don't intend to trick anybody. I intend to uncover the truth. This is no time to be downcast. As long as there's a chance, I have to stay strong and determined. Dramatically putting a foot on the bench. That's right. Oh, we hit a to be continued.
I have considered the defense counsel's request for a further summation examination of the jury, and I have determined that the court must uphold the defense's judicial rights to this procedure. So, counsel, you will now proceed with your second summation examination. I presume the jury is ready, Mr. Foreman. We are, my lord. Very good. In that case, I must ask each of you now to state clearly and concisely for the court the grounds on which you find the defendant guilty of this crime.
Here we go. Accused of find evidence at the scene. Sure. Explanation about the victim's head might reconsider. Okay. If the woman is throwing books, it can't be related to this crime if the window was closed, can it? It was only a little book. Not threatening, even with a direct hit. Come to think of it, we had a fire. Wait, he doesn't live in the, does he?
Considerably more tangible arguments from all members of the jury this time around, it seems. With one notable exception, of course.
My learned student friend was unable to find fault in the previous witness testimony. So the court must accept the fact that it was indeed the accused seen fleeing from the scene. And moreover,
no one else was even at the scene to commit the crime. Well, if the eyewitnesses are correct, it would seem as if the conclusion is somewhat set in stone. I fail to see how it can be argued any other way.
That means, I'm afraid, that during the summation examination, it's essential that you establish some other tangible explanation for the facts. But how? What would even constitute a tangible explanation here? Isn't it obvious? Who stabs a woman, and how? Those two details are all you need to provide. Simply give us the name and the method by which the attack was conducted. There I was thinking this might be hard. But Mr. Naruhodo, you have to do it. Otherwise, this really will be where the trial ends. Oh, no pressure, then.
That's quite enough preamble. Proceed with the summation examination, please. I presume you are prepared, counsel?
Yes, my lord. Alright, Ryunosuke, focus your mind now. Clearly, the key to this summation examination is going to be juror number 4, the maid, or should I say Mrs. Garadeb. We have a book that disappeared from the Garadeb's house on the evenings of the incident, and the fourth book found in the victim's hand. There must be a way to link the two. Yes, that's what we have to find. Using every technique I've learned in my short career so far, whatever it takes. Don't forget to keep an eye on Mrs. Garrideb on how she reacts, even to the things other people say. The defense's rebuttal. Choose. Alright.
Hold it!
But as we now know, there were 4 books, not 3.
Well, what difference does it make?
There's every possibility that the 4th book, in fact, belongs to the defendant's landlord.
Yes, that's what I have a problem with.
Sorry?
Well, at the point the woman was stabbed, this landlord fellow was at home, wasn't he? Enjoying a fiery scrap with his wife, or something you said.
That's not exactly how I put it, no.
Well, anyway, the point is, the fellow and his wife was somewhere else when it happened.
I think that's what you call a strong alibi.
So it couldn't have been the landlord who did it, until he leaves the Nipponese fellow. Honestly, can't see what all this palaver's about. It's a done deal, isn't it?
I suppose it is, since I've nothing witty left to say.
Hold it!
Well, let's see. So, you might be willing to change your decision, you mean? Oh my, such delight on your face. I'm afraid I shan't be swayed by emotion. Despite what you may think of me, I am a very modern, metropolitan, and rational woman. That's great. If one reads the morning papers, it's all forgotten by tea time, isn't it? So why read them in the first place? You see? Modern, metropolitan, and rational thinking, wouldn't you say? And not at all extreme. As I see it, an overwhelmingly suspicious Japanese man has been implicated by overwhelmingly strong testimony. So despite 1 or 2 minor puzzlements, I do declare that the man is overwhelmingly guilty. Modern, metropolitan, and rational logic, wouldn't you say? Overwhelmingly. But us modern gals are always delighted to embrace new fads, you know? So I'd only be too happy to consider an exciting new theory if we could come up with one. And I'd be happy to do that too, if only I could. Let's do our very best not to disappoint the modern metropolitan young lady. Right. I'm glad you admitted rational there. Lid home is closed, sure.
Hold it!
What about the possibility that the window was open? What about it? I mean, there's just no way it could have been. How can you be so sure? The prosecutor fellow over there said it earlier, didn't he? Winters in London are no joke. You don't want to invite that sort of cold indoors. So no, that window wasn't open. Us Londoners like sitting by the fire and staying warm, you see? But you couldn't categorically state that the window wasn't open, could you? It just wasn't. They wouldn't have opened it. What's the point of even having windows, huh? Counsel, you will kindly refrain from childish bickering. Oh, sorry. Somehow I need to show there's an undeniable possibility that the window was open. Because this young man isn't going to budge otherwise. So let's see. Why do you say it like that?
Hold it!
It's almost like you did throw something. But the little book was on fire at the time, was it not? With flames of love, I'll have you know. There is really no such thing as a loving incendiary bomb. Well, he brought it upon himself as playing with fire to betray a fiery love. Isn't it? Well, don't you agree? Oh, well, any kind of betrayal is certainly a bad thing, yes. But I think the argument might have arisen out of your misunderstanding, Mrs. Garrideb. Never you mind that. The point is we were just having a jovial little dispute, nothing more. And I won't have any of these suggestions that it was anything whatsoever to do with this crime. Right, well, we'll see about that. What about juror number 5? He doesn't seem to be turning a hair at Mrs. Garrideb's relentless onslaughts. It's almost as though he's used to it. What a gentle soul he is.
Hold it!
You just want to get this over with. How can you sit there and say something like that? A man's future is at stake here.
Him and me both then, like I said before.
What?
I told you already, I'm a daylight bro, ain't I? If I don't bring home some readies for me tonight, you'll find me floating face down in the Thames tomorrow morning.
What?
You heard me. My missus doesn't want to mess about, you know? She can be fierce, believe you me.
Another shining example of marital bliss, then.
A situation like this cropped up the other day. It was, well, you know, it's funny, but I can't quite remember.
Sorry?
It was too frightening, that's the thing. I must have blocked it out.
Helpful. I wonder if Mr. Pete will ever be dragged into the Thames by his scarf. Don't even go there, Mrs. Otto. There must be some way to jog his memory about this. He had a fire at home a while ago.
Hold it!
Does that have anything to do with your decision about the defendant's culpability in this case? Sorry? What's that? You'll have to speak up, lad. Could you tell us more about that fire? It was last winter. My grandchildren baked me a lovely cake on my birthday. It had 75 candles on the top, it did. What a sight to behold it was. You put candles on a cake? Was it some kind of devil worship? Of course not. It was an angel cake to celebrate my birthday, obviously. It seems that's a common custom here in Great Britain, Mr. Naruhodo. Anyway, I must have done all my puff to blow them out. Only I must have blown wrong somehow. The flames didn't go out, but candles went flying all over the room. The furniture caught and everything went up. The whole place filled with smoke. Definitely sounds like devil worship to me. Yes. But, and by the sneezes, I presume you mean a cold, but how did you catch a cold from a fire? What if you ask how it was? The grandchildren, bless them, threw water over me as they tried to put out the flames. And then, because the whole room had filled up with smoke, of course, we had to open all the windows to clear it. The windows? The biting winter air rushed over me like the devil dancing on my grave, it did. I caught a terrible cold from it, put me in hospital for a while. I won't forget that birthday in a hurry. I knew it was devil worship all along, but something about this old man's story is playing in my mind for some reason. It sure is. We needed to demonstrate who, apart from Mr. Natsume, could have attacked the young woman on the street, as well as how he or she could have done it. Yes, but once again, the jurors' statements are full of personal prejudice. A lot of them seem convinced they're right, even in the face of logical arguments to the contrary. I think you're going to need to pit them against each other to force them to accept an alternative explanation. Yes, I don't necessarily need to find contradictions between their assertions, just a connection might do the trick. Alright, let's see what I can do. If anything stands out, I'll go in for a strike. That's the spirit. I told you it wasn't me. Oh, what's that you say? Speak up, lad, speak up. Juror number 3, did you see? Oh, me? See what, sir? Did you hear juror number 6's account of his birthday celebrations last year? It seems, despite being a Londoner, he once opened his windows in the middle of winter. Well, yes, of course, because it was an emergency. I mean, obviously, if the room was filled with smoke from a fire, then you'd be mad not to open the... Oh! Exactly. On the day in question, at the time of the incident, there was a fire in the Garadeb household, and Mr. Garadeb had the following to say about it. The whole place filled with smoke.
Oh, my.
Therefore, to clear the smoke, either Mr. Garadeb or his wife will certainly open the window. That you cannot deny would be in no way out of the ordinary. No, I suppose it wouldn't. Wait a minute.
Excuse me.
Juror number 4, do you have something to say about that? Mrs. Garadeb. Oh, dearie me! What is the meaning of this? How dare you imply that I'm hiding who I really am? It's imperative that you confirm something for the court. So please, it's time to drop the pretense now. What is it? When the fire started in your house that day, did you or your husband open the window? What? I beg your pardon? What are you insinuating? The room would have been thick with smoke after the carpet and bookcase caught fire as they did. In a situation like that, it's inconceivable that you wouldn't have opened the window. What if we did? Oh, alright then. Yes, you're right. My husband was frantically trying to open the window. Which can't have been easy, since I continued to give him a justly deserved book battery. Even though your house was on fire? Oh, you never stop throwing until the anger subsides. It would be terribly bad for the nerves to do otherwise. Of course. I should have realized. That's a significant step forward, Mr. Naruhodo. You've managed to establish that the window was open. We simply must have that added to Mrs. Garadeb's formal statement. The window was open at the time. Well, here, she just flat out says it was open.
Objection!
Right? Oh,
Hold it!
never mind. I'm sorry, but it's forming the jury. I have to object. That's completely nonsense. Well, it's not, but yeah, fine, whatever.
There's no contradiction as far as I can see. Quite so, Mr. Foreman. I will not permit a whimsical attack against the good members of the jury council.
There's nothing whimsical about it. Okay. Listen carefully. And you can decide where the contradictions will lie, if there are any. Yep. Okay. Alright, so I think we gotta press probably Mrs. Garrideb. Let's do it.
Hold it!
The fourth book found at the scene of the crime shows very obvious signs of fire damage. And the title of the book is The Lion's Pride. The same title, in fact, is the book that Mr. Garrideb told us he'd been reading. Well, I really couldn't say. On the day in question, did you or did you not throw at your husband a copy of The Lion's Pride that he'd been reading? I did. It was the first thing I could lay my hands on, so I hurled it straight at him. And now you come to mention it, yes. He was rather enjoying reading it, you're right. Why did you not reveal this information to the court from the outset? Because I couldn't, you insolent little man, I didn't remember. At times like these, you pick up and throw whatever you can lay your hand on, as you well know. I really don't. I barely noticed I was throwing a book, much less the title of it. Wait a minute.
Excuse me!
What is it, juror number 5?
You know something? I've remembered what it was the memory had blocked out.
Ah,
I was listening to what this granny was saying and brought it all flooding back.
who are you calling a granny, you cheeky devil? I'm Mrs. Garrideb, or the maid, I'll have you know. The man doesn't even flinch. Please tell me that's not because he's so used to being hit all the time.
It was about 2 weeks ago now. I just got home back to work, like, put my hand in my pocket for the wages I just earned that day, and I nearly died. There was a hole. Every last penny had dropped out.
Oh dear, what a disaster.
You haven't heard the half of it, boy.
Oh?
The wife was cutting up some chicken at the time. I could hardly get the words out, but I told her straight. I've lost the day's wages, love. Next thing I knew, the blade was whistling past my ear. Stuck into the wall next to me, it did. About an inch deep.
No words, just terror.
I could smell it then, you know. That god-awful stench of the Thames. I was sure I was going to end up face down in the muddy banks that night, I can tell you. Now, that's a real disaster, isn't it?
I'll never use the word lightly again.
Anyway, the point I'm trying to make is this. When a woman loses their rag, they throw anything at you. Knives, hatchets, hammers, you name it.
Mr. Naruhodo, you mustn't think that all women are so short-tempered and unrefined. No, I wasn't thinking that. Throwing household objects at people as well. It's so uncivilized. She didn't throw a knife, did she? At least attack with honor, using a bow or the like. What? Attack? Who are you going to attack? Never mind. Anyway, this man's words could be rather significant, I think. Alright, we'll come back to the bow and arrow thing later, if I dare. Alright, throw almost anything at you.
Objection!
Yes, got it. Alright, deeply significant connection.
Good grief, you mean they don't contradict each other?
Explain, counsel, at once. Juror number 2, do you think perhaps that this could be one such novel alternative? Oh my, whatever do you mean? An alternative explanation as to how the victim was stabbed in the back.
What are you talking about?
We've demonstrated that the fourth book, The Lion's Pride, that was found at the scene of the crime, originated in Mr. Garrideb's room on the top floor of his house. Therefore, it's equally possible that some other object besides the book could have found its way from the Garrett household to the street below.
What's that now?
After all, Mrs. Garrett could have thrown any number of different objects at her husband. Isn't that right, juror number 4?
What are you insinuating now, you little beanpole?
I'm beginning to think that ever since the true origins of this book came to light, perhaps she's had a feeling this might be what happened.
Now you listen here, you Eastern Gala. As the foreman of this jury, I demand a straight answer. Give us this yarn about some other object making its way out of the house, but what? What was it?
I'm really taking a big gamble here. It was a bold accusation to make, but I haven't any real evidence to back it up. But I'm certain that at the very least, this warrants further investigation. Alright, Mr. Foreman, I'll try to explain the defense's theory. The other object that found its way from the Garrett household at the scene of the crime was...
Take that!
Juror number 4, Mrs. Garrett.
What? What now?
I must apologize in advance for this, but I need you to confirm something else for the court. This knife. Have you ever seen this knife before?
Huh? Good Lord, Counsel, what on earth are you doing? That's the weapon that was lodged into the victim's back, man.
My lord, remember that when the victim was attacked, Mr. and Mrs. Garrett were in the throes of an argument. Mrs. Garrett was hurling anything she could at her husband, who'd been backed up against the window. A window that had been opened and cleared smoke, and through which a book sailed to land at the crime scene.
Can't seriously believe that. The book was found in the victim's grasp.
Are you saying that it flew out of the window and across the street to land neatly in her hand?
Huh. Even my missus hasn't got a name like that.
Yes, I admit it. There are many details we don't yet understand. But that's the point. That's precisely why we must not allow this trial to end. Not right now. Oh my. Ah! Mrs. Garrett, your answer, please. Have you seen this knife before or not? Oh, oh! Thud. Uh-oh. Well, hello. Welcome.
My lord.
I wish to change my decision. I'm a woman of my word, after all. Thank you, madam.
Yes, I agree. I certainly didn't see this coming, but I just don't think it would be right for this trial to come to an end now with so many unanswered questions.
Mr. Foreman? Yeah, that's unexpected.
I'd have to agree. Not that I think the granny did it, mind.
Yes, you know what? I'm not quite happy about this at the moment either.
All together now, ladies and gents.
Why is juror number 6 not changing his vote? We did it. Oh, congratulations, Mr. Naruhodo.
So, as a result of the defense's summation examination, the number of jurors' leanings have changed. 2 jurors called guilty against 4 now calling innocent. Accordingly, the opinion of this court is divided, and this trial will continue. Now then, Lord Van Sykes, how does the prosecution wish to proceed?
This trial is rapidly descending into a farce. Like a corked vine, the first few sips are bitter enough.
But what follows is so repugnant it's good for nothing save the gutter. If I may, Lord Van Sykes, the defense has just put forward a credible alternative explanation for what happened.
Credible? Is that your considered opinion, Mr. Foreman? The defense's argument is a joke to which I barely know how to respond. But let me start by insisting. So you must all familiarize yourselves better with the relative positions of these places being discussed. What do you mean by that? Which is angle this time? It should already be more than apparent that between the crime scene and the Garrett household runs a rather wide street, Prior Road, which Which means that the distance from the Gyarados house to the scene is some, yes, 15 yards. Let me see. 15 yards. That's around 14 meters. 14 meters? Oh, that's a little farther than I imagined. And as you ladies and gentlemen enjoy rightly noted as having portentous significance, the fourth book was found in the victim's clutches. In other words, the smoldering book, wantonly held by the lady of the house, traveled some 15 yards to land on the opposite side of the road, immediately between the collapsed victim's fingers and thumb. Is that your final conclusion, my learned and deluded friend? And did the jackknife follow a near-identical trajectory to plunge into the middle of the victim's back? This fantasy is somewhat stretching the notion of having a bad day for the victim, I think. Even those pathetic serialized detective stories have more believable plots. There's nothing I can say to that. That prosecutor loves the sound of his own voice. Mr. Sato, serialized detective stories are pathetic, are they? How dare he? Maybe let's pick our battles here? My lord, might I be allowed to speak?
As judicial assistant, you may speak for the defense, yes? Go ahead.
The prosecution may consider the idea a fantasy, but what the defense has postulated was believable enough to persuade the jury to change its leanings. And as such, the court has a duty to explore this alternative explanation as thoroughly as possible. To that end, Juror number 4, Mrs. Joan Gyarados, must be called to testify and submit to cross-examination.
Saints alive! A cross-examination of a juror?
Oh, it's getting spicy.
Order! 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 Well, this is highly irregular. It is unprecedented for a member of the jury to be summoned to the witness stand.
Objection!
And unnecessary.
Lord Van Zykes?
There are already witnesses in the stand, those testimony the defense may further cross-examine. If my learned friend's farcical theory has any truth in it, then both a burning book and a jackknife must have flown through the sky before this couple's eyes. And we must assume they would be able to testify accordingly.
What say you, witnesses?
Yes, sir. Constable Rory Beat reporting for duty, sir. Well, good morning, officer. Sorry for dozing until now, sir. I haven't slept for a month on account of a villain who's appeared on my beat, sir. Oh, they are so heroic, these London bobbies. Patricia, my darling, I've been neglecting you, but no more. Oh, Rolly, my hero, you make me swoon.
Very well, I hereby reject the defense's request.
Oh.
And order the witness in the stand to testify again. State forthwith before the court any details pertaining to the defense's alternative explanation of events.
Yes, sir!
Oh boy.
Constable Beats report. This case has nothing to do with Mr. and Mrs. Gyarados, believe me. And London Bobby is good for his word. You see, sir, the windows on the top floor of the Gyarados house are top-hinged casements. Obviously, if anything had been thrown out the window, we would have seen it. I did leave the scene to go and fetch help, but my trusty Rolly was there to make sure nothing was disturbed. I didn't take my eye off the scene of the crime for one moment, sir. Nothing strange to report on that front, sir.
Well, this is quite startling. Top-hinged casement windows.
That detail was not in the police report, Constable. Yes, I'm sorry about that. I must have been a little drowsy.
You cannot excuse your sins with drowsiness every time, Constable.
No, sir. Sorry, but what exactly is a top-hinged casement window? And you? You cannot excuse your ignorance with such trite remarks, my learned friend. Of course, sorry. I Found it, Mr. Naruhodo. Cast your mind back to the windows in Mr. and Mrs. Garradeb's room. Alright, I'll try. Oh. So the window opens in order to allow air to circulate inside the house. What is this? A top hinge casement window. It swings open along the upper hinge, you see. I'm glad you've rectified your ignorance. A casement window's most prominent feature is its stay. A metal bar which prevents the window from being opened beyond a certain amount. It prevents it opening. This is all news to me. Absolutely correct, sir. In other words, if a book or knife would have been thrown through the open window, it would have clattered along the pane and fallen straight down to the pavement below. No. You see the problem, then? Good. The education in Windows is complete. There was never any possibility of either the book or the knife traveling 15 yards over the road. That is, unless the window pane had been shattered. Something we've discounted already. That can't be! Did you see that, Rolly? The young Japanese man just collapsed in agony. Oh yes, my darling, I saw it. I saw how he crumbles before me. Oh, Rolly, you're so strong. How is this happening? I haven't even started the cross-examination yet, and already my argument's been destroyed. Counsel, if you could drag yourself upright again, the court awaits your cross-examination. My lord. Oh, good. Another desperate situation. Constable Beats report. Alright.
Hold it!
I'm thinking we're going to have to catch out one of them reacting to something. How can you say that for certain? A very good question, sir. The answer is this. It has the noble founding principles of the force written on it as a reminder to all us policemen of our sworn duty. He showed us that before, didn't he? Did he? I can't say I remember. To patrol the streets of London town and uphold the peace of the common man is what the job's all about. And that is why I can stand here today beside my long-suffering wife and tell you a Bobby's good for his word. Not rubbing my tired eyes admittedly. Sir? Oh, Rolly, you're so manly. Of course I am, my darling Patricia. Oh, Pat. Oh, Rolly. No, none of this is what I meant. I meant, how can you say for certain that this case has nothing to do with Mr. and Mrs. Garradeb? Oh, I see, sir. You should have said so earlier, sir. Yes, well, so could you answer the question? That was a waste of time, then. Absolutely, sir. I will answer it to the fullest of my ability, sir. There's a surprising reason why Mr. and Mrs. Garradeb's domestic dispute can't be related to this case. But before I get into that, sir, just one thing. Yes? I'd very much like you and all your countrymen to understand the great British institution of Scotland Yard, so I hope you take back some tales of us London bobbies and how we uphold our guarding principles. I wasn't planning on going back just yet. I've only just arrived here. So to that end, sir, I'd be happy to lend you my warrant card for your perusal. But I must warn you, you won't be able to get through without shedding a few tears. Thank you. I'll try. Hey, we got it. That might be it. It might be something worth looking at. Okay, let's look at it. Item number 1. A policeman will strive to preserve the peace within his allotted beat. Item number 2. A patrolling officer is expected to walk 20 miles around his beat every day for the furtherance of community relations. Metropolitan police regulations versus principles of policing. Item 1. Any crimes fall under the jurisdiction of the beat in which they are discovered. Oh. In the beat. Okay. Wait a minute. Does that change anything? I don't think so. Never mind. I thought I had something for a second. Item number 2. When a crime is discovered in his beat, a policeman must assist with initial investigations and help detectives. Okay. Huh. Okay. Let me mull over that one a little bit.
Hold it!
By which you mean they don't open fully, is that correct? Yes, sir! They're just there to allow air through the house, you see? So they're restricted as to how much they open. And therefore, anything thrown out the window from inside the room would simply strike the pane and fall through the street directly below. For clarity, allow me to mark the map. Here is the location the objects would have fallen. Yes, directly opposite the scene of the crime, on the other side of the rather wide road. Would it have been so hard for somebody to mention this top hinge casement thing before? Well, I have another question for you, Constable. And what would that be, sir? How do you even know? Why would you have any idea what sort of windows Mr. and Mrs. Garadeb's house is furnished with? Ah, well, sir, that's very simple. You see, I helped with the investigation yesterday. Uh-oh, what do you gotta say?
Excuse me.
Do you have something to add, Mrs. Beat? Oh, sorry. You look, well, delighted. Is there some particular reason for that? Oh, I was just remembering, that's all. We really were so lucky. Lucky? What do you mean? Well, of course I feel terrible for the poor woman who was attacked. Don't misunderstand me, please. But we were just so lucky it didn't happen on Rolly's beat. It was so close, you see. Oh, I hadn't realized. Oh yes, that street, Briar Road, that's the boundary between Rolly's beat and the next one. Isn't that right, my love? Constable Beat. Oh, yeah, yes, that's right. That's the reason I was helping out with interviewing the occupants of the Gravity household yesterday. The house is on my beat, you see? Sir? Wait, the house is on his beat? That really was cutting it close then. Constable, I wonder if you could clarify something. If the Garrett household is on your beat, does that mean that the pavement next to it is as well? Outside Mr. Garadeb's house? Yes, ma'am. The pavement on the side of the road is part of my beat. I see. I was unaware of that. Just think, if the woman had been attacked just on the other side of Briar Road, we would never have been able to go for that meal to celebrate our wedding anniversary. But that's the life of a Bobby, after all.
Extraordinary people are Bobbies, tirelessly working for the benefit of all Londoners.
Do you know what I think? I think it was the good Lord's way of rewarding my Rolly for all his hard work. Don't you think so, my darling? That must be it, Pat, my love. That must be it. I think perhaps we should make sure we have that information officially on record. Leave it to me, Mr. Naruhodo. I'll take care of it immediately. The case file. Okay. The pavement where the victim was found lies just outside Constable Beat's beat, the border of which runs down the middle of Briar Road. Okay. Now it's my turn, I think. So...
Hold it!
But according to my notes here, the sun had gone down already and it was dark. Rolly and I were strolling along, gazing at the night sky and looking at our lucky star. Sorry? The star that will guide us to eternal happiness. Can it guide you to answer the question? If a flaming book had cut across the sky in front of us, it would have lit up like a shooting star. And if I'd seen a shooting star, I would have made a wish upon it. Let Rolly be an inspector, I would have said 3 times at least. Of course, with the smoke and everything, we couldn't actually see any stars. In short, are you trying to say that neither a book nor a knife crossed the sky before you? Yes, sir. That is correct, sir. It shows the night sky in London is starless, sir. It certainly sounds like they're telling the truth. And then we saw the poor woman fall to the ground, so we ran straight over to help her.
Hold it!
Yes, you said that you went to a nearby police box to fetch another officer, is that right? That's right, yes. If it had been on Rolly speed, I would have known exactly where I was going, of course. Don't feel bad, my love. You can't be expected to know the location of every police box and every beat. So Rolly told me the way. Only, I sort of got a little lost on the way. Patricia, my darling, that's why I love you. Your terrible sense of direction is bewitching to me. Oh, Pat. Oh, Rolly. Oh, please. So I suppose I was gone for about 15 minutes. But like I said, my Rolly was at the scene the whole time, making sure nothing was disturbed. I was off duty at the time, of course, but a true Bobby is never really off duty, sir. crime scene for one moment. Nothing strange to report on that front.
Hold it!
Nothing to report. That's correct, sir. I had my eyes wide open the entire time, never looked away for a second. No one else approached the scene, and nothing was removed from it. I can swear to that with the odds on it, sir. Really? That seems a little strange. Beg your pardon, sir. Strange, sir. Seems altogether regular to me. This burnt copy of the Lion's Pride was originally in the Gyaradev household. So the question remains, how did it find its way into the hand of the victim? Can you shed any light on that, seeing as you were at the scene of the crime the entire time? Aha! Could it be a different copy, sir? One that just happened to be burnt as well? Even if that were possible, why would the victim have been gripping a book like that in her hand? As we can see from this photographic print, she had a bag over her shoulder. Well, sir, that book was in the lady's hand for the moment we were at the scene. Is that so? There's something about this statement that's not sitting right with me. These two mysteries of how that knife ended up in her back and how that book ended up in her hand. There must be some common thread between them. Can I ask you something? Please, Mr. Lawyer, sir? Oh no, you're gonna get all offended again. Yes, of course. What is it? You're doubting us, aren't you? I can tell. What? I wasn't really. I mean, what's she doing? Please, just because I'm a woman, it doesn't make my testimony less valuable. You might just see me as the wife of a policeman, but I'm a woman of my word, I am. Oh boy. I really don't remember ever suggesting that I doubted you. No excuses. I don't want to hear it. My voice will be heard. My lord, you'll let me speak, won't you?
Yes, Mrs. Beats, I will allow you to supplement your testimony if you so desire. Sometimes the path of least resistance is the sage one.
That was a very loud order. I heard that. The Japanese man thinks a policeman's wife's word counts for nothing, does he? Well, watch out, sir. I might let you get away with something like that, but my Rolly won't. Duly noted, Mrs. Beat. Please, I humbly ask you to continue. What could she possibly be about to say, I wonder? I know what I saw. My eyes never let me down. My sense of direction is a little off sometimes, though. I didn't take my eyes... Oh, wait. What did she say? Wait, go back. I know what I saw. My eyes never let me down. Hang on. Okay. I'm so sorry, Mr. Naruhodo. I had no right to speak out. What do you mean? I requested the cross-examination of Mrs. Gyaradev without consulting you. Even if the judge did deny me. Oh, I see. Well, I agree with you. We do need testimony from Mrs. Gyaradev, if we're ever going to get to the truth of this matter. Do you really think so? Well, think about it. No matter how far it is across the road or how that window opens, Mr. Gyaradev's book found its way to the scene of the crime somehow, didn't it? You're right. And then, there was Mrs. Gyaradev's reaction to me showing her the knife. The woman was hiding something, I'm sure of it. You're right again! We need to use this cross-examination to uncover more clues. We'll get to the bottom of this one way or another, I swear. Yes. Alright. Trusty...
Hold it!
Sense of direction is off. Mrs. B, nobody is questioning what you've told us. I saw it. I did. That evening, I saw it clearly. That little Eastern man with the whiskers and the funny curved back slinking away from the scene. Haha. And I know what I didn't see as well. I didn't see any flaming books or knives flying through the sky. All very clear. You also mentioned something about having a poor sense of direction. Oh, yes, well, this is a little embarrassing, really. I'm always ending up at the wrong place when I've made arrangements to meet Rolly. He gets ever so cross. Wait a minute. Constable Beat, is there a problem? No, sir, no problem, sir. Did your wife's remark just now bring something to mind, perhaps? Oh, well, in a way, sir, yes, sir. I was just remembering that the same thing happened that evening, is all. You mean Mrs. Beat lost her way on the night of the incident? Well, you see, I sent her off to find a police box in the next beat over from mine, but she was gone a fair bit longer than what I was expecting. I thought she'd be back inside 10 minutes, but my darling was gone a good 15. Oh, Rolly, you're such a tease. But the reason I was so long was because of the bouquet, silly. The bouquet? Sorry, what bouquet are you talking about? Oh, it was a present for our wedding anniversary. Rolly's so romantic. He saved up for it with farthings and halfpennies he found in the gutter while doing his rounds. Yes, how romantic. I'd forgotten all about it until just now. Had you, my darling? Ah! Oh, yes, but that was just between us. I'm talking about it to anyone else, darling. You have to promise. Really? Oh. What's that all about? Constable Beat looked very obviously troubled during that exchange. I'm afraid I can't offer any useful insight, Mr. Naruhodo. But I'm quite sure of one thing. We have to ask Mrs. Beat about the bouquet. Mrs. Beat, this bouquet you just mentioned. I'd like you to add details about it to your testimony, please. Oh, really? Yes, I'd love to. Van Zykes is not happy. I took my bouquet and ended up losing my way for a while.
Hold it!
Alright. You mean you dropped the bouquet at the scene of the crime? Yes, that's right! Oh, I was so upset. When we ran over and saw it was a woman with a knife in her back. I was so shocked, I dropped the bouquet Rolly gave me. I was in a dark spot where the streetlights weren't casting any light, so I didn't notice it first. And then you went to the police box to report it to the policeman because Beat It was on? Yes, and I came back to the scene together with the other constable, you see? That's when I spotted my bouquet again. But the funny thing was, when I went to pick it up, there was nowhere to be seen near the victim's body at all. In case you need reminding, Mrs. Beat, the victim is not deceased. I was all flustered for a moment before I had a verse calling me from the other side of the road. Your husband, presumably. That's right, silly me, I'd gone over to the wrong side of the street. Although I'm going to blame the bouquet this time. I can't think how it got there. I really can't. So the bouquet somehow moved from one side of Briar Road to the opposite. Yeah, what's that about?
Curious indeed.
Isn't it? But the worst of it is I forgot to pick the bouquet up again when we left the scene. That beautiful rose Rolly bought me. With that change from the gutter he spent so long collecting. By bouquet, do you perhaps mean this solitary rose? Oh, yeah! Lay where are the street lamps, cast no lights. It was believed to be of no relevance to the case, since it was found on the opposite side of the thoroughfare. Oh, thank you, sir, thank you. Could I have it back now, please?
No, I think for good measure, this rose should be added to the court record as evidence.
Oh. The anniversary bouquet has been entered into the court record. There we go. But it's a symbol of our love. I want it back after the trial, do you hear me? I want it back!
Good grief! Rest assured that I shall do my very best not to forget, Mrs. Beat.
Okay. Can we look at it? What's this? It's very stylish paper the flowers are wrapped in, isn't it? It's just an old newspaper, Mr. Naruhodo. Oh! I suppose it's because I'm not used to seeing English print. It looks so exotic to me. Ah, I see. Is something wrong? Oh, no. I was just thinking that if you wrapped a stone-baked sweet potato in English newspaper, it might look like some sort of fancy cake. Oh, Susato-san, you do love your cakes. Is there anything else to look at on the rose? English rose. It's such a beautiful flower. Ah, this is a rose, is it? I've never seen one before. You're not taking interest in flowers, Mr. Naruhodo? I wouldn't say that exactly, but I do know 3 types at least. Gosh, 3? Yes. Plum blossom, peach blossom, and cherry blossom. Perhaps you should consider branching out. Learning some that aren't fruit tree based, for example? One rose is a full dozen to someone in love. This is true. Maybe this is a kiss from a rose. Eh? So, is that all? That's nothing... yeah. losing my way. Yeah, this is getting tricky. I'm not sure where to hit on this. Let's see. Well, Mr. Naruhodo, what do you make of all this? Yes. The whole idea of an invisible attacker has been troubling me all along, but I believe I'm starting to get a picture of what really happened here now. The fourth book that had no business being at the scene of the crime made me sure that Mrs. Garrett was hiding something from us, but it's becoming increasingly clear that someone else has been hiding something from us as well. I think I may already be armed with everything I need to strike a decisive blow here. This time, it's going to expose the whole truth about this mysterious affair. It will? I'm a little behind here, guys. Let's see what we can figure out. But first, let's save scout. Oops, I didn't mean to start over again. So, alright, I gotta really think about this one here. Let's look at the court record. Alright. The shock of seeing the stab victim caused Mrs. B to drop the rose where she stood. Right. And how did it end up in her hands? That's what I want to know. Right? That is the question, right? Trying to think of where the clear contradiction is, right? Let's see. I did leave the scene. Drop my bouquet. Nothing strange to report on that. The other thing I can think of is that if he didn't take his eyes off for a moment, then wouldn't he have seen this be dropped? Yeah, and so why would she have to find it? That's the only thing I can think of. Let's see. Let's present the bouquet.
Objection!
Hey! The music stopped. That's a good sign. You claim, Constable Beat, there was nothing to report in the 15 or so minutes you were guarding the scene. But that cannot be. What do you mean to say? In your testimony just now, Mrs. Beat, you explained... Me?
Objection!
Poor sweet summer child, indeed. But if that were the case, why would Constable Beat not testify to that fact? No one else approached the scene and nothing was removed from it. Constable Beat swore to that on Scotland Yard's honor. But the bouquet belonged to me, it has nothing to do with the case. That's why Rolly didn't mention it, I'm sure. No, because sadly it's not your bouquet we're talking about here. More than one thing in this case is mysteriously the wrong way around. What are you talking about? Think about it. Besides Mrs. Beat's bouquet, there's Mr. Garradip's book. Mr. Garradip's copy of The Lion's Pride, which was thrown out of the window by his wife, would have struck the pane on the casement window and landed here on the west side of the street. And yet, it was actually found here on the opposite side of the road in the victim's hand. Meanwhile, according to the testimony we've heard, Mrs. Beat's bouquet should have been dropped here at the scene of the crime on the east side of the street. But in fact, it was actually found here on the opposite side of the road, in front of Mr. and Mrs. Garradip's house. There's no logical explanation for those things. belongings. Unless somebody deliberately moved them. What are you trying to say? The way you're talking, it sounds like you think my role has done something wrong.
Don't you listen to a word that scrawny lawyer says? What are you on about? Books and bouquets. Why should we care? It's nitpicking, that's what it is.
Oh good, Mrs. Garadeb's come around. You might call it nitpicking, Mrs. Garadeb, but deliberately meddling with the scene of a crime is a criminal offense. It's called, tampering, Mr. Naruhodo. But the person responsible for this tampering cannot admit to it, for a very subtle but compelling reason.
Objection!
Tampering? You've barely heard the term before. Tell us, my learned friend. Who would possibly have had cause to carry out such an elaborate deception? Yes, there is someone who tampered with the scene of the crime that evening. All the evidence and all the testimony points to that one particular person. It's Rolly, right? Rolly did it. But why? Is he the murderer? It's right?
Counsel?
He moved... Oh, I get it. No, I understand it. He moved her to the other side of the street so that it wouldn't be on his beat. I bet that's what it is. Yep. I bet that's why. Yes, yes, laziness. Rolly the Ripper.
Counsel, I must demand that you substantiate this conjecture. Who are you saying is responsible for tampering with the scene of the crime?
It's gotta be Rolly.
Take that!
Obviously, there's only one person it could have been. Constable Rolly beat, it was you.
What? A policeman? A member of Scotland Yard?
What nonsense! Why would my Rolly do something like that? There's no one sooner than my husband. Nobody works more tirelessly for the people of London. Mrs. Beat, you said in your testimony that your husband asked you to go to a nearby police box to fetch the officer on duty. The 15 minutes that you were absent from the scene is the only opportunity anyone had to tamper with it. You're making it up. It's all nonsense. It's all lies. What about the Japanese man with the whiskers? I bet it was him. He did it.
Objection!
No, he left right away. If that was true, Constable Beat would have seen him do it. Oh. And forgive me for pointing it out, but when you dropped your bouquet, Mrs. Beat, it was after the defendant had fled the scene. Ah, well...
Objection!
First you make accusations about the landlord and his wife, and now you incriminate a policeman as well. But your accusations lack one very important thing. You claim the crime scene was tampered with. But there is only one reason anyone would commit such a reckless crime, to hide something. That's right, he's right. But my husband and I just happened to be there, that's all. So why would he have anything to hide? Doesn't make any sense. You've offered no motive for this alleged tampering. And until you do, your accusations are nothing but empty threats. Oh, I know why. Constable Beat had a very good reason for wanting to tamper with the scene of the crime. That's the key to this entire affair. Yep. I got it. Mr. Naruhodo, have you managed to solve this mystery? I think I have it all figured out now.
Counsel, you've made a very serious accusation against a London police officer. If you are mistaken, I'm sure I need not point out that your reputation as a lawyer will be irreparably damaged. With that stark warning in mind, I will now explain to the court the motive for this alleged tampering.
Yes, my lord. Alright. I'm always paranoid about, like, a Godot style, I'm just going to make this next thing be an instant game over if you get it wrong, so we always have to save. Constable Beat's motives for tampering with the crime scene was to hide where the victim fell. Has to be. Where the victim fell to the ground. This is what the Bobby had to cover up at all costs.
What?
Where the victim fell? You mean where she was attacked? What are you talking about? We told you at the very start, didn't we? On the pavement of Briar Road, we saw it happen, remember? It was right here, as if anyone didn't already know. That's certainly what everybody has been led to believe, but in fact, that isn't where the victim was stabbed at all. What?
I'm beginning to wonder where this tumultuous trial will end, Counsel. If that's your assertion, then the court is dying to know my Nipponese friend. Where are you proposing that the crime actually took place that evening?
Take that!
On this side of the road. But that's on the opposite side of the road.
I don't understand.
It was his beat. On the evening in question, Mr. Garradeb's book fell directly down from the open window above, and your bouquet, Mrs. Beat, never moved at all. What did move was the scene of the crime itself. Good gracious!
Objection!
I bet. Perhaps you haven't been listening to the ample testimony the court has heard. But these witnesses both saw the moment the attack took place.
That's right, I saw it with my own eyes.
It was 5 o'clock in the evening and already dark. There was the typical London fog on the ground. When you saw the incident unfold and ran to the victim's aid, that was actually on the west side of Briar Road.
No, that's not true. It can't have been.
Constable Beat then arranged for you to be absent for a while by sending you for help. And during the 15 minutes you were away, he transplanted the crime scene. He moved all the things shown in this print, the victim herself, the 4 books. He moved everything, in fact, to the pavement on the east side of Briar Road. Extraordinary. But the constable overlooked one thing.
What? What did he overlook?
The bouquet, I presume. Exactly. The prosecution told the court just a few minutes ago about the discovery of the rose bouquet. What Van Zyke said, it wasn't noticed until the morning, as it lay where the street lamps cast no light. Yes, couldn't be seen in the dark, obviously. Which is why it was only the bouquet that was found in its original position on the pavement on the west side of Briar Road. And that is the defense's theory about what really happened that evening. How do you respond? Constable Worley Beat.
Well, I'm very sorry. I didn't mean to nod off again, but I haven't slept properly in a month. Did I miss anything important? Oh, Rolly, it isn't true, is it? What that lawyer said is all lies, isn't it? I know it is, because you're the most upstanding, righteous man I know. I had a dream, a terrible dream. All the things I did that night, everything come out, everything exposed. Only it seems it wasn't a dream at all.
Good golly! Oh boy. Oh da! What on earth is the meaning of all this?
Really, why? Why would you do something like this? Moving a corpse is a criminal offense, isn't it? Wishing the victim dead should be one too.
Constable, explain yourself. Why would you do this? As a respected member of Scotland Yard, your duty is to protect the good people of London town.
I can't say, sir.
What?
I really am ever so sorry about all this. For damaging the Yard's reputation. For everything.
I have a possible explanation. I know exactly what it is. For why, on that particular evening, Constable B felt compelled to move the scene of the crime. I can think of one reason. What? How could you possibly know? You are a foreigner, presuming to understand the mind of a Scotland Yard policeman. And yet, Lord Van Zyke, it is this foreigner who has uncovered the startling truth of the matter thus far. I believe it would be beneficial to the court to hear this extraordinary young lawyer's theory. Counsel for the defense, if you please.
Yes, my lord.
Now then, I think you had better show us some evidence.
At once, my lord. It's the constables. England, Japan. It makes no difference where you come from. Human emotions are the same. And I think I have a fairly good idea of the feelings behind this man's actions. What gives away the motive of Constable Beat's unthinkable actions? It's the warrant card.
Take that!
That's right. Alright. I will be right back, and we will continue with this. Alright, I am back. Alright, which is why all this information about London's so-called bobbies is completely new to me. I've learned that, though honorable, patrolling the beat is the most demanding work in the world, for example.
Keeping the peace, looking after the citizens on his beat in all kinds of ways. There's no doubt that the young Bobby is charged with a good deal to do every day, certainly.
But for Constable Beat, the day in question was special.
Special? How?
On account of this bouquet, my lord. Oh yes, it was our very first wedding anniversary. Yep. Constable Beat had worked so hard to be able to afford this simple gift for his wife, and was so looking forward to taking her out for a celebratory meal, when he and Mrs. Beat stumbled upon a crime along Briar Road. When he saw that shadowy figure through the fog, collapse on the pavement the hell of them. What must have gone through the man's mind? Is that... who's talking? So, just on that one particular day, I was looking forward to celebrating my wedding anniversary. Mrs. Beat puts up with being married to a Bobby like me. I wanted to show my dear wife how much I care. Right. This is the warrant card that Constable Beat offered to lend me earlier. Inside, among the rules for patrolling policemen, it says... When a crime is discovered on his beat, policemen must assist with initial investigations and help detectives. Aha! Constable Beat. Is that or is that not the reason why you moved the whole scene of the crime that day? Yes. Everything you said, it's alright. So that's it. It was all to do with the boundary of your beat. Oh. Exactly. To summarize, the incident actually occurred on Constable Beat's beat.
Good gracious. Constable, do you realize the gravity of what you've done?
It was the first time since I became a copper that I'd ever cursed God. Stay close to me, Pat. The criminal could still be lurking somewhere. As we ran over to the scene, I had every intention of doing my duty as a police officer. We've got to report this to the station as quickly as possible. But then it dawned on me. I realized where we were, where the victim was lying, and what that meant for me. When a crime is discovered on his beat, a policeman must assist with initial investigations and help detectives. Why here? Why did this have to happen here? And why tonight of all nights? Why? Uh-oh. It's a copper's job to go up the scene of the crime, so I told Pat she'd have to go to the nearest police box and fetch whoever was on duty there. It was then, when I opened my mouth to speak, it just came out. I couldn't believe the words that were coming out of my own mouth. This is the next beat to mine, Pat. You have to get to the police box that covers it. Turn right along Mearsham Street and then... So he gave her the wrong directions. But he didn't do the stabbing, I don't think. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. Oh, Constable. I just wanted, just that one night, to take my Patricia out for dinner. Oh, Rolly, just that one night. You know that if the incident was on your beat, your evening of celebration would be ruined. So you decided to move the entire crime scene outside your jurisdiction, just across the street, to the east pavement of Briar Road, which falls under the neighboring beat's care. You see, I thought, well, I was sure the victim was dead, you see.
I beg your pardon?
Oh, of course he did. Otherwise, my Rolly would never have left the poor woman on the freezing cold pavement. Ah, I see your meaning now. But God got me back for my sins, didn't he? That's why I missed the rose I bought for Pat. Oh no, Rolly, that was all my fault. I should never have dropped it in such a dark place. I'm so sorry, Rolly. And can you tell us, Constable? How many books did you move from one side of the road to the other in total? 4 it was, yes sir. Definitely. 4. 3 of them dropped by Mr. Natsume, and the 4th being the one that fell from the window upstairs in the Garrett household, of course. But what made you place that book in the victim's hand? When all the others were scattered haphazardly around, I mean. Oh, well, sir. That's because that's how I found it. How you found it? What do you mean? When we first ran over to the scene, the victim was already holding the book. So, when I moved everything, I made sure it was still in her hand. You're sure it was this book, The Lion's Pride, the victim was holding? Oh, yes, sir. No doubt about it, sir. Interesting. The 4th book's information has been updated in the court record. I thought it was an open and shut case at the time, you see. There were only the 2 people at the scene, and Pat Mabel saw it happen. However, which way you looked at it, had to be the fella who ran off who done it. I thought... I couldn't see the harm, really. I didn't think moving it all over the road would make a jot of difference. Why, I suppose this is it for me now. I've had it. My lord?
Yes, Lord Van Zykes?
I believe that concludes the cross-examination of the witnesses. Constable, may withdraw. Yes, sir! Oh, Mr. Prosecutor, sir. What will become of my Rolly? What will happen to him? For now, you are free to go home. The police will contact you in due course. Please don't punish my husband. This was all my fault. It's because I'm always moaning at him for coming home late. Leave it now, Pat. Let's go home. I'm tired. Alright then, my love. One last thing, Constable. Huh? Let this be a lesson to you. In a criminal investigation, every detail matters, however insignificant it may seem to you. Yes, sir. Carve that lesson in your mind. And never again make the mistake of tampering with the scene of a crime. Sir? Never again, sir? You mean to say... Leave, now. This trial is not yet over. Sir! Was that compassion and mercy from Van Zykes?
Well, quite a startling revelation, I must say. Never thought of a third party transplanting the entire scene of a crime like that.
Indeed, my lord. Nevertheless, there are some immutable facts here. Principally, that the accused, Mr. Sasaki Natsume, is the only person who could possibly have committed this crime.
Objection!
No, I disagree. Now that we know the true scene of the incident, there is someone else. Another person who could be responsible for the knife in the victim's back. Yup, Mrs. Garadeb. Forgive me for being presumptuous, but I believe the prosecution is probably well aware of the possibility already.
Lord Van Zykes, is this true?
Very well. Name the person, if you will, and if further investigation is warranted. The prosecution has no objection to the trial continuing.
You will name this other person who could have perpetrated the crime. It's Mrs. Garadeb.
Take that!
Mm-hmm. The defense would once again like to request the cross-examination of a new witness, my lord.
Once again,
my assistant made the same request earlier, in order to finally reveal the truth about this case. It's imperative that we cross-examine juror number 4, Mrs. Joan Garadeb. Me? Me? Oh, dearie me.
Objection!
That request has already been denied.
Objection!
But the situation is very different now. Mrs. Garadeb, answer me this. What do you want now, you little toad? At the time of the incident, you were engaged in a violent argument with your husband, Mr. Chan Garadeb. In the course of the argument, a minor house fire was ignited, and to clear the smoke from the room, your husband opened a window that looks out over Briar Road. Well, what of it? You threw this book at your husband when he was cornered with his back against the window. Upon striking the pane of the open-top hinged casement window, the book plummeted directly down, finding its way to what we now know to be the true scene of the incident. Yes, and as I said, what of it? During the argument, you were beside yourself with rage. As such, you threw not just books, but anything you could lay your hands on. So let me ask you one more time, Mrs. Garadeb. This knife, the one removed from the victim's back, have you really never laid eyes on it before? I don't recall it. Seriously? Am I supposed to remember everything I picked up and threw at my husband? And anyway, the man over there and all that regalia said members of the jury needn't testify, didn't you? Conveniently, yes.
Objection!
No, I have no recollection of saying that at all, juror number 4. Oh, make no mistake, you jurors are not special in any way. You are not immune to the judicial process. If you know something about this knife, madam, let the truth come out. But that's just a common garden knife. It could have come from anywhere. We have several like that at home, if one went missing. How could you expect me to know? What's that?
are you joking? What are you saying, please, Mrs. Garadeb?
Uh-oh. Now you listen to me. I refuse to believe all this nonsense. I couldn't bear the thought that I'd injured someone. Do you hear? I couldn't bear it. Oh, the poor woman. So, Yes, I want evidence. I want to see hard evidence if you're going to insist on this being my fault. You're going to have to prove to me that I threw that knife if that's what you think. Come along now. Chop chop. Do your worst. Well, Mr. Naruhodo, if I had evidence like that, believe me, I would have thrown it at her already. Then take the stand, juror. Oh. The prosecution does not object to the defense's request to cross-examine this woman. Thank you, Lord Van Zykes. I'm gonna have to testify?
Juror number 4, as I'm sure you will appreciate, having observed it with your own eyes today, witness testimony can lead to the most extraordinary truths being unearthed. Truths of which the witness themselves may not even have been aware.
Oh, dearie me.
So I demand your full and unadulterated testimony, Mrs. Garrideb. And mark my words, in this court of law today, we shall extract the truth.
Here we go.
Do you concur, consuls?
Certainly, my lord. Oh, yeah, that's what I was hoping for, my lord. This is such a strange feeling. For the first time since arriving in this country, it actually feels real. I'm here in the Old Bailey, and I'm a lawyer. Sure are. Witness, state your name and occupation. Oh, yes, my name is Joan Garrideb, and I'm a juror and such like. It sounds like even she doesn't know if she's a housewife or a maid, or what anymore.
The court has decided your testimony was required in order to clarify matters in this case. Do you understand, madam?
Yes, my lord. You will tell the court everything that took place in your household on the evening in question. And I warn you, do not attempt to hide the truth. Oh dear me.
Chin up, Joni!
I know who this is.
Nothing to worry about now.
Oh, I didn't know you were here, John.
Wasn't only you in the room that day, old thing, was it? Rather think I ought to testify as well, don't you?
But what about your need here?
Don't you worry about that. How'd they notice it? I'm not the sort of chap to leave a comrade face to face disciplinary action alone.
Oh, John.
I presume you are Mr. John Garrideb? Yes, sir. Former second lieutenant of the 3rd Regiment of the 4th Northumberland Fusiliers, sir. Seen my fair share of action, and now living the quiet life, as it were.
The quiet life? Were you not engaged in an incendiary battle with your spouse in the day in question?
Well, yes. Quite. I believe this may represent a first in the proud history of the British court. Calling a juror to the witness stand is unprecedented. However, the court will hear your testimony now, juror number 4, and that of your husband. You will recount clearly and concisely the events in your home at the time of the incident in question. Sir, at once.
I like people can just volunteer to be witnesses now. The Battle of Garrideb.
Yes, on the day you're referring to, the wife and I did have a bit of a skirmish, can't recall the reason now. Knocked a candlestick over and set fire to the carpet. Soon it had out, though, got the window open.
Meanwhile, I was picking up whatever I could find to throw at him. Plenty of knives around our place. Can't say I'd noticed if 1 or 2 went missing, I'm afraid.
If that bally thing in the victim's back really was one of ours, you'll have a job proving it, I think.
Okay.
Sounds as though it was quite the battlefield in your household that evening.
Although, an entirely one-sided assault, it seems.
The enemy caught us on the hop, sir. I had no choice but to dig in and take defensive measures. To be honest, if the enemy had kept shelling us for another minute, we'd have been toast. Of course, a veteran such as myself is only too aware that on every battlefield, you're just a gnat's whisker from death at any moment.
we still talking about a marital quarrel here?
Well, I must say I'm dubious that this testimony will shed any light on the origins of this jackknife. In combat, one's focus narrows such that surroundings are barely noticed. These witnesses may not be able to offer anything more than they have testified already. This may be a dead end.
Van Zykes may well be right. Well, whatever the chances, we only have this last cross-examination to uncover the truth, Mr. Naruhodo. Yes, I'm afraid so.
Very well, counsel. Begin your cross-examination.
The Battle of Garadeb.
Yes, in the day.
Hold it!
The reason is what you told us yesterday, I believe. Yes, that's right. If I remember correctly, it all started because of a note that was tucked into the pages of a book belonging to Mr. Garadeb. A rather passionate note, in fact. But Mrs. Garadeb found the note, discovering her husband's little secret, and she gave him a mighty number of slaps across the face for it, too.
What a sordid state of affairs.
Hell on earth.
I say, when a chap says he can't recall such things, it's common decency not to drag it all up. And besides, half of it was wide of the mark anyway.
A likely story. These waters run very deep.
And what transpired next after these multiple blows to the face? Knocked a candlestick over and set fire to the carpet.
Right.
Hold it!
Let's figure this out here. And the fire also spread to some items of furniture, didn't it?
The bookcase, my armchair, anything of mine really. Just so happens there was some bathwater around that evening, so I sloshed out about to put it out. A most precarious situation you put yourself in. Ours is a 3-story townhouse on the west side of the street, where the water main isn't connected yet. To draw water from a public water pump during the day if you need any, you see?
The lodgers are always moaning that they can't get any water at night, although a little mustached Japanese man buys water in bottles, I believe. The defendant, Mr. Natsume, you mean? Yes, he receives a stipend for his studies, you know, from his home country. Can you imagine being able to brew a pot of tea at all hours? He's obviously very well off. Have you actually seen the state of the man? I believe he uses all of his income to buy books.
Well, anyway, the point is, I was able to douse the fire with water, fortunately enough.
Meanwhile, I was picking up whatever I could find to throw at him. Wait, I want to press that. Hang on. Whatever you could find, tell me all about it.
Hold it!
Even though the room was on fire? As far as I was concerned at the time, it was more important to extinguish my anger than the flames. When a woman wants to throw, she must throw. This is most certainly not true of Sasato Takedown, Mr. Naruhodo. How did she know I was thinking that? So, please cast your mind back and try to remember. There was a knife among the items that you threw at your husband that day. In all honesty, I don't recall. But I feel I must point out that I'm no monster. Let me see. Some bread, a cabbage, garlic, a towel, and a sponge, a napkin. Wait a minute.
Excuse me!
Do you have something to add, sir? Mr. Garadeb.
Yep, hey, don't shoot! Sorry, I beg your pardon.
Did your wife's remark, did I just bring something to mind?
Nothing of any significance, no. Just that the barrage of projectiles the old thing launched in my direction was somewhat more solid than she implies. Books, bricks, and the fire poker, I seem to recall.
Ouch.
And the woman's aim is uncanny. She landed it directly at the very belly. Ah! Good grief, woman, we're not at home now. This is a court of law.
Oh, dearie me. I'm so sorry, dear. Yes. Susato is... Yes. I kind of wonder. What's she even doing with a teapot in here? Honestly, John, I would never throw such things at you, obviously.
Well, take a look at this, then. How do you suppose that happened, Your pipe, sir? Had this thing in my hand as usual at the time of the onslaught. Knocked it clean out with one of her soft projectiles, she did, yes. And when I went to pick the thing up, it was broken in two. I wanted to see the sponge do that sort of damage.
I see, your pipe was broken.
It would never have sent flying unless it was hit by something pretty solid. Anyway, I've managed to bandage the thing up for now.
You are one to exaggerate, aren't you, dear? I wonder what we should make of this account.
It's important.
The defense believes Mr. Gyarados' remarks just now to be of great significance. This veteran's words only tell us one thing. Betray a fiery wife and pipes, as well as hearts, may be broken. Sentimental wisdom, perhaps, but hardly worthy of adding to the formal testimony.
Indeed. Common sense, one might say.
Might one? In that case, would you at least permit us to examine the pipe, sir?
Well, I don't see why not.
Oh, dearie me, there you go again, trying to ingratiate yourself with a young lady.
Very well. The court will accept the gentleman's pipe as evidence.
The pipe has been entered into the court evidence. Okay. I hope I didn't speak out of turn, Mr. Naruhodo. I was just feeling rather disappointed for you that your request was turned down. Oh no, it's fine. Thanks to Susato-san, we have some new evidence to work with. We should examine it carefully.
Well, thank you for that rebuttal, Mr. Gyarados. Now if we could return to the crux of the matter. What can you tell the court about the knife used to attack the victim?
Let's look at the pipe now. It's important it got added.
Wait, what is that?
Oh, something just twinkled inside the chamber of the pipe there. Yes, I saw it. Something's stuck in there, I think. Let's turn it over and give it a shake. What's this?
It's the tip! It's the tip!
It's a tiny fragment of metal. Looks like the tip of a blade or something. The tip of a blade? Surely it couldn't be. Yep, the small piece of metal looks like it might be the tip of a knife blade. It was stuck inside the bowl of Mr. Gyarados' pipe. I think we found it. It looks to be in a sorry state with that bandage around it, doesn't it? But for some reason, it feels slightly ominous to me, like it's trying to shout it out a warning. Probably because it's the same blue as Mr. Gyarados' dressing gown. I suppose it must have considerable sentimental value with Mr. Gyarados, given that he's gone to the trouble of preparing it like this. Either that, or he can't afford to replace it. Yeah, probably more that. So wait a minute. This is the tiny piece of metal we found in the chamber of Mr. Gyarados' pipe. It looks like the tip of a blade of something. The tip of a blade? Is something wrong, Mr. Naruhodo? I don't really know. There's just something niggling me, but I can't quite put my finger on what it is. Perhaps in that case, it would be wise to examine some of the other pieces of evidence again. Again? Again? Yeah, I get you, game. Let's look at this thing again. Oh, look here, Mr. Naruhodo, just at the tip. A small piece of the blade appears to be missing. Wait, part of it's missing? I could be wrong, but I've just got a feeling. You remember this? Oh, that's the tiny fragment of metal that we found inside Mr. Gyarados' pipe. Yes, and just maybe... Oh my, it's a perfect fit. Somehow, I just knew it. Okay. That didn't update any evidence, though, right? I mean, if I look at this again, does anything change? This is the tiny piece of metal we found in the chamber of Mr. Gyarados' pipe. I'm gonna store good luck that it's a perfect fit with the broken tip of the jackknife. It's extraordinary, isn't it? And fills me with a sense of awe. It's surely proof that these miracles really can happen. Yes, and more miraculous proof I couldn't ask for. Oh, okay, never mind.
Hold it!
Sorry, would you care to elaborate?
Nothing to say, really. Rather partial to a spot of carving, you see? Pipes and whatnot, fishing tackle, you know, this sort of thing.
It's a passion we both share. I like to carve little wooden trinkets, too. And then there's my leatherwork.
Sorry to say, we're always losing knives about the place. We have dozens of things.
They sell them at the market sometimes. 20 for the price of 19. Needless to say, I snap them up. John proposed to use 2 knives at meal times 2 instead of a knife and fork. Now, John, what else? The thing is, I'm out of savage. Ow! Here we go again with the scaldings. Why are they being so evasive? I imagine it's because they don't want to believe it. They can't bear the thought that it might have been one of their knives that injured the victim. Which is entirely understandable, of course, but still. Still, there's an innocent man's life here. Come on. Go on with your testimony, witnesses. Sir. That really was one of ours. You'll have a job proving it, I think.
Hold it!
So you have no intention of admitting it was your knife, unless we can produce proof? Even though there was no other credible possibility of Mr. Natsume's innocence? You forget, my Nipponese friend. That it has yet to be established that the accused is not responsible for the attack. As if I could forget. If only there was some way to know who had handled that knife. I suppose wizard like that just a dream. You're thinking of fingerprinting, Mr. Naruto. What? You mean it's not a dream? That sort of wizardry really exists? Whenever people touch anything, they leave behind a unique pattern from their skin. So they say. But I can't see anything. There are already counters in the world where these so-called fingerprints can be used as evidence. Lord Strongheart is currently discussing the matter at the Ministry of Justice.
Yes, I believe we are rapidly approaching an era of scientific methods of investigation.
Yeah, no burden of proof, sorry. Burden of proof does not exist in the Phoenix Wright series at all. But for now, we shall have to find an alternative method of proving our assertion. That this knife found in the victim's back was originally in Mr. and Mrs. Garrideb's house. Ugh. I could transplant this whole incident to several years in the future. Alright. That's the extent of their testimony, is it? What do you think, Mr. Naruhodo? Well, I think we've heard all this before, to be honest. I can't say I'm particularly confident that we'll be able to prove anything new from this testimony. But in this cross-examination, it's absolutely essential that we establish how this knife came to be at the scene of the incident. Yes, I know. So I have to present the piece? Metal? I'm sure both of them must be feeling very worried that if this was in fact a knife belonging to one of them that caused the victim's injury. If we could find even a tiny shred of evidence to support that theory, it would clinch this trial for us. It would explain everything. Yes, it would. So for Saseki-san's sake, we must find that last crucial piece of evidence. Alright, hang on. I think it is his statement about we can't, yeah.
Hold it!
Wait, I don't want to press him. Stop.
Objection!
Yeah. Alright. Let's get around here. Talk again. Yeah. I need to present the tip of the knife. And then I think that'll be... Yes. That will be a clincher for us. Present.
Objection!
There we go. Mr. Garrideb, could I ask you to take a good look at this, please? You can ask, but I can't see a bally thing. You can't? You used to call me Dead-Eyed Deb back in the regiment, of course. But that was some time ago now. Even when I'm trying to enjoy a large print book by the fire these days. I struggle to tell a B from a D and a P from a Q, to be honest. Well, he does, dearie me. It's rather wearing, being asked about every other letter and every other word. You must be very... does he? What is that? A tiny scrap of metal? Yes, almost certainly from the tip of a blade. And what may appear at first to be just a tiny scrap is in fact a crucial piece of evidence. Interesting. And where did the defense come by this evidence? It was lodged in the chamber of Mr. Garrideb's pipe. My pipe, you say? By Jove. When did that got there?
Precisely does this fragment of metal signify, Count Counsel. Are you suggesting that it was in some way related to the matter of the stabbing on Briar Road?
I am. What? When put together with another piece of evidence already in the court record, I believe this tiny fragment of metal will unravel the whole truth of this case, my lord. I like the burnt back of his robe there.
You appear rather confident in that extraordinary statement, Counsel. Very well, then. Present the pertinent evidence to the court. What evidence, when paired with this fragment of metal, allegedly reveals the truth of this entire case?
The
Take
jackknife.
that!
This is the knife that was found in the victim's back. If you look closely, you will see that there is a small piece of the tip of the blade that's missing. A common issue with the inferior blades sold at unsavory street markets. Criminals who use them regularly leave the tips lodged in their victims' bones.
And what of this particular knife?
No doubt its tip has suffered a similar fate, now languishing somewhere near the spine of the victim.
Objection!
No, that's not the case. The tip of this particular knife's blade is the very fragment of metal we discovered in the chamber of Mr. Garrett's pipe.
Ah! Ugh! Good grief, Lord Van Zykes!
I don't believe it. The knife in the crime scene is this fragment of metal.
Our perfect match! But good golly gosh! Order! 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 Is this some sort of Eastern sorcery?
This is no magic, my lord. This is a miracle.
A miracle?
So Van Zykes has figured it out, has he?
Counsel, explain this extraordinary coincidence at once.
Yes, my lord. The crucial point we have to ask ourselves here is when did the fragment of metal find its way inside Mr. Garrett's pipe? Something that was clarified for us in the most recent witness testimony.
I had this thing in my hand as usual at the time of the onslaught. Knocked it clean out with one of those soft projectiles. She did, yes. Would never have been sent flying unless it was hit by something pretty solid.
Oh, dearie me. During the argument between these two that occurred just as the victim was on the pavement below, Mrs. Garrett flung this knife at her husband. However, the knife missed Mr. Garrett instead striking the pipe in his hand at the time, which caused the tip to break off, of course.
Good lord!
Yes, and that is when the tiny tip of the blade found its way inside Mr. Garrett's pipe.
The chances of that, 1,000,000 to 1!
And yet, there's no other credible explanation for how the tip of the blade ended up in your pipe. Then, after losing its tip, the knife ricocheted off the pipe and flew out the open window. Ah. In short, this knife, which fell from the window of the Garrett's house, is the very same knife that struck the victim in the middle of the back on the street below. Oh gosh, oh dear, oh no!
Objection!
A full-bodied theory, I'll give you that. A complex bouquet of seemingly trivial points, plausibly arranged to create an almost passable vintage. Allow me to toast my learned friend's characteristically Nipponese approach to bottling his argument. Sorry? But after all, it is just a theory. The bottle, I fear, is corked. Because, you see... Oh, we got booted again. It's spoiled by an insurmountable inconsistency.
Lord Van Zykes, explain yourself. What is this inconsistency you claim to have identified?
An inconsistency of the simplest nature, my lord. The victim was found with the knife planted in the middle of her back. Yes, in her... Ah!
That's right, you silly little man. Now, Joan, old thing, what are you getting so excited about?
Let us consider the basic facts of the case once more. The victim was walking along the pavement before being stabbed in the back and falling to the ground. If the knife that struck her had fallen from above, There's no possible way it could have punted itself into the victim's back. Gah! No. No. She was reaching down to pick up the book. No. She was reaching down to pick up the book. Yep. That's why she was holding it.
Order! Quite right, you see, that's exactly right. If the knife had fallen on her from above, it would have struck her on the top of her head.
Well,
It's lost for words, look.
I knew it. I never liked his theory in the first place.
I don't know what really did happen.
She was leaning down to pick it up.
It would appear the defense has made rather a spectacular blunder.
If our theory has even one inconsistency, it cannot stand. Your theory, my learned friend, is history. We were so close. I could see the truth. I was so sure we were on the right track. But now the way has been blocked completely by just one simple inconsistency. Or in other words, we simply need to eliminate that one inconsistency, and the theory will stand. Mr. Sato. You mustn't worry, Mr. Naruhodo. You were just caught off guard, that's all, and your mind went blank. But if the path you were on is indeed correct, then a way will present itself. The key to this is in the court record, sure. All the information you need is there. It seems you have nothing to say, my Nipponese friends. Well, your silence speaks volumes. A tacit acceptance that your theory is fatally flawed.
Objection!
This inconsistency doesn't mean I was on the wrong track. It means that I need to sharpen my mind and dig deeper for the truth. It's a test. Yes. If the knife fell on the victim from above, there's no way that it could have hit her in the middle of her back. Under normal circumstances, that is. What are you implying? Counsel? There is a piece of evidence in the court record that can explain this inconsistency. That can explain how the knife fell from above, could have pierced the victim's back. It's the book. She was reaching down to pick it up. We already have the answer.
Goodness! Utter madness! Surely this must be the last time. Counsel, present the evidence on which you speak.
This is the last inconsistency, the final piece in the puzzle. If I can successfully make sense of this, the truth will be laid bare at last. The evidence that explains how the falling knife became lodged in the victim's back is the book.
Take that!
Yup. This, the fourth book found at the scene. This is the final piece of evidence the defense will present.
The burnt book? Is that not Mr. Garadeb's book?
Yes, and to understand its significance, we have to consider how it came to be at the scene in the first place. This photographic print clearly shows the book in question, and the victim holding it in her hand. Well, as we all now know, it was the police constable who put the book between her fingers like that.
Quite so, as part of his wholesale transplanting of the crime scene to the opposite end of the road.
That's true, however. As part of his testimony, Constable Beat made an extremely enlightening statement on that point. But what made you place that book in the victim's hand? Oh, well, sir, that's because that's how I found it. When we first ran over to the scene, the victim was already holding the book. So, when I moved everything, I made sure it was still in her hand. Right. In other words, the victim had already picked the book up by her own volition. And clearly, that must have been before she suffered the knife wound.
Well, I should say so. After being attacked with a knife, I don't imagine she'd been doing much of anything.
So the question becomes, why did the victim have that book in her hand?
By Jingo! I think I'm beginning to see what may have happened now.
Oh, dearie me. We know that the book fell from the top floor of the Garadeb house to the pavement below, at precisely the moment that the victim was walking past. Yes, at exactly that moment, the young woman was walking along the street in the light fog, when all of a sudden, a book fell right in front of her. The book I threw? Yes, Mrs. Garadeb, and what do you think the woman did? What would you do if you were walking along and suddenly a book landed in front of you on the pavement? Well, I really can't imagine it, but I suppose she might have reached down and picked up the book up. Yes, that is exactly what the woman in fact did. She picked up the book. Oh heavens! And when the woman reached down to pick the fallen book up, what position would her back have been in? That's right, facing the sky. Completely and utterly defenseless. And then, in the very next moment, while the woman was still bent over picking up the book... Yep. The next object fell from the room above, the jackknife, straight into the middle of her back. And at that same time, walking by chance directly behind Miss Green, was the defendant, Mr. Saseki Natsume.
Well, I never!
It appeared to Mr. Natsume that the woman simply collapsed on the floor. In the dark and the fog, he didn't see the knife falling on her from above. Ah! And from the other direction, the constable and his wife saw no one but the victim and their apparent attacker. So there never was a culprit
To run from the scene in the first place.
No, this was nothing more than a series of unlikely events that culminated in an unfortunate accident. And that is the real truth behind this case. Well, Mr. and Mrs. Garadeb? The very first time you showed me that knife, I had my suspicions. I wondered if perhaps it might have been something like that.
There, old bean.
Poor Mrs. Garadeb. Of course, I never meant for anything of the sort to happen, but it was all my fault, wasn't it? I take full responsibility. I let my anger get the better of me. I threw that book, and I threw the knife as well. John, dear?
It's all right, I know.
I'm ever so sorry. Truly. I'm sorry! Oh no.
Lord Van Sykes, what news of Mrs. Garadeb?
She has been taken to the infirmary. It would appear that today's events had left her in an especially flustered state. However, I believe she will recover in due course. There is no cause for concern.
Yes, unbeknownst to themselves, they caused what could easily have been a terrible tragedy. They shall have to prepare themselves for the consequences of their actions.
There is some good news, however, my lord. I have just had word from the hospital where the victim is being treated. Her condition is improving steadily, and the doctor believes she will regain consciousness soon. It's strange. We've been talking about the victim all this time, but we've never once met her. How wonderful. The woman is out of danger, it seems. Yes, that's good news.
So, Mr. Saseki Natsume?
Yes!
On behalf of my fellow countrymen, I would like to take this opportunity to beg your pardon, sir. You came from your distant eastern homeland to study our great British culture, and have been repaid with immeasurable kindness. Please accept our heartfelt apologies.
No, it is me who should be begging your pardon. Oh no, Mr. Natsume. That evening, when the young woman just collapsed on the pavement before my eyes, I jumped to the wrong conclusion again in my confusion.
What conclusion, sir?
I was sure that the woman was dead. Yes, Constable Beat said the same thing, didn't he? He thought she'd been killed, too. I suppose she must look completely lifeless. It's been about a year since I arrived in Great Britain now, but I still can't get used to life here. I can't relax. I'm sure there are evil spirits lurking in the fog, like they're haunting me. Poor Sasaki-san. His imagination really has got the better of him. Yes, poor man. So when it happened, I thought the young woman had been taken by the fog spirits. I should never have dropped my books like that and run away. I should have called for help, for a doctor, for the police. Instead, I've managed to create a rift in the relationship of trust between our two empires. And for that, I am truly sorry.
One could indeed say that some sort of mischievous spirit has been at work here, I think. One that created a chain of unfortunate mishaps. You were befooled by this spirit and led to false conclusions. But thanks to Lord Van Zykes and our young lawyer here from the east, that chain has now been broken and the spirit exorcised. I heartily commend you both.
Oh.
Now then, ladies and gentlemen of the jury. Yes, my lord. In concluding this trial, I must ask one last time for your decision regarding the defendant's culpability. Are you ready to present your findings to the court? As the foreman of this jury, I can assure you we've reached a fair and just conclusion.
I do declare the truth can be extremely cruel at times. Well, I didn't suspect the woman next to me, that's for sure.
Sitting in for the old bean while she's out of action, you know, but I know what a decision would be.
Okay.
Does this mean I'll finally be able to get out of here and start work? Well, it's about time.
I say, I'll have a cool story to tell the grandchildren when I get home, won't I?
Very well, ladies and gentlemen of the jury. I hereby demand your final decision. Mr. Foreman.
Not guilty.
Not guilty.
Not guilty.
Not guilty.
Not guilty.
Not guilty.
There we go.
Very well, Mr. Sasaki Natsume, I pronounce you not guilty. And finally, Mr. Natsume.
Oh, yes, Lord Sir.
You are now a free man once more. It is my hope that you will continue to further your education in British culture. And may you never again be brought before me.
Oh yes, sir. Of course. On my life. I swear I'll never set foot in a courtroom again. I'm transported to tears.
Thank you, counsels. Court is adjourned.
Yes, he is definitely a JoJo character. Yes. Maybe he's friends with Speedwagon. 20th February, 3:17 p.m., the Old Bailey, defendant's antechamber. Oh, Locum! Wait, you mean me? Of course! Is there another Locum here? Is there even one? Compared to the original Locum student, Mr. Naruhodo Esquire, your name has become rather short, hasn't it? What's wrong with using my actual name? At last, I'm free! Joyful, joyous, jubilant, jubilation. Heady, hearty, happiness, hurrah! Oh, I am pleased. Mr. Natsume is delighted. Would it be so hard just to say that then? Locum, you did it. You saved me from the brink. Well, what happened to the poor woman was in no way your fault, after all. I'm just glad everyone can see that now. No, not that. Lovely, loyal Locum lawyer. Yes? I mean, as I said before, I have just never got used to life here in Great Britain. Every time I look over my shoulder, I see foreigners. I see towering brick buildings. And from high up windows, I see them looking down on me, laughing. Look at that little hunchback. Oh dear, I'm sure it's all in your head, Mr. Natsume. But today you, local lawyer, gave my gloom the boot. You stood firm behind that baronial bench before all those babbling British. You battled to the bitter end, laying bare the baffling truth. And When I beheld the blinding fireworks among the beams of the Bailey's roof, I bellowed, "Behold the best barrister ever born!" Well, that's very flattering, and we're very pleased for you. This has given me a wonderful anecdote to recount to my old friends back in Japan. An anecdote? Is that what's to become of all my hard work? Ah, there you are, my dear fellows.
Oh! Haha! I apologize for keeping you waiting. I rose late this morning.
Oh, Mr. Sholmes! What a pleasure to see you!
I see I'm here not a moment too soon. A disaster's been averted, I'm glad to say.
Oh. The trial should begin presently, Mr. Naruto, and I wish you the very best of luck. It's just finished.
What? No! Then my haste was in vain?
Oh! It's you, Herlock Sholmes!
Oh, have we met, sir?
This is Mr. Natsume, the man you had arrested, Mr. Sholmes.
Ah, I see. I failed to recognize you at first. Our previous encounters have taken place in the gloom, either of your bleak lodgings or that prison cell. I simply couldn't place that curious face in the light.
Charming. This is all your fault, Herlock Sholmes. You're the reason I had to go through this terrible ordeal. I'm gonna give you a piece of my mind.
My apologies, sir, but I assure you, I have placed you now. You're the fellow who abandoned that poor young lady and ran off, are you not?
Had she been taken to hospital more urgently?
I feel perhaps she would have regained consciousness by now.
Oh.
But it was unavoidable, I'm sure. We're but human after all. Anyone would have been shaken by such an experience.
I do feel very badly about how I behaved.
Well, never mind. Now then, what was it that you wanted to say to me, sir?
Nothing.
Priceless. Oh, I am sorry, really, but that was quite priceless.
Poor Saseki-san.
Wow, you just got owned by Sholmes. That's rough. Still, on the bright side, you had an extremely entertaining experience without paying a penny, and it would seem you were not even found guilty.
But there is no bright side. Whatever do you mean, Mr. Natsume? Even after this, I'm still cursed by the spirits, and now by the Reaper! Oh, Lord Van Zykes. I haven't forgotten, you know, what facing that man in court means. Even if you're found not guilty, you're still doomed. It will be alright, Mr. Natsume. If the Reaper appears truly going to make trouble, I'll protect you. Hiya! With a perfectly executed Susato takedown. Much as I like being turned on my head, a bit of warning might be nice next time, Miss Susato. So, Mr. Natsume, what do you intend to do now? You mentioned something about recounting your experiences to your friends back in Japan? Yes, I intend to return to my homeland soon. Oh. It has already been a year since I arrived here in Great Britain. I've visited universities, libraries, bookshops. I've been honored with the tutelage of professors. I've learned so much about the wealth of literature here and the city it has shaped. And I've come to realize that it is my calling to sail home and tell my fellow countrymen about it. That's very touching, Mr. Natsume.
Or, in perhaps less veiled terms, you wish to withdraw halfway around the world to escape the terror of the Reaper's curse.
That's not it at all! The more I learn of literature, the more this strange feeling claws at my insides. I feel compelled to return to my roots and attempt to pen a work of my own. Oh, I see. A work of literature by Saseki-san. Could be an interesting read. I don't know why she threw poor Ryunosuke. She always throws him.
What about Mr. Susato and yourself, Mr. Naruto?
Sorry, what about us?
Will you return to Japan alongside your mustached compatriot?
Why would we? A week has not yet passed since we arrived in London. And only now does it feel as though we have finally found our feet. And you're accommodated in a hotel at present, are you not? That's right, but we need to find lodgings before it bankrupts us. I've calculated we can only afford another 10 nights before our entire budget is exhausted. Well then, you could take my lodgings. Oh, the windowless room? Ah, but what it lacks in windows. It more than makes up for with a floor, a ceiling, and walls. Great. And of course, I'd be happy to leave behind the accursed evil spirit. Oh my, an evil spirit? Oh yes. It tries to suffocate you while you sleep. It's an infallible wake-up call. We'll think about it, if that's alright.
Perhaps I can offer a more welcome alternative. Would you consider taking lodgings with me?
Really?
Well, the vacancy has conveniently presented itself. Though it is up in the attic, I might add.
Are you sure it isn't just a storage loft?
I spoke with the landlady this very morning on the matter of price. Iris is cleaning the room as we speak. You must come at once. I presume you have no luggage to speak of.
Oh, this is simply wonderful. What an honor to be invited to take lodgings to the great detective's office's attic. I'm too overcome for words.
So suggesting we look elsewhere is out then. Then it's settled. Iris very welcome dinner this evening. And you must come too, Mr. Natsume. I insist.
I don't know what to say, but thank you, and yes. Wonderful. Then I'll go and complete the paperwork for your formal release, Mr. Natsume. I shan't take long.
Somebody's happy.
Locum, I knew that you wouldn't let me down. I'm truly delighted to have met you here in London. Likewise, Mr. Natsume, it's been a privilege meeting you, too. It's a shame that we're going to have to say goodbye so soon. Well, I've come to realize that I belong in Japan. But Locum, we'll meet again one day. Yes, I'm sure. And hopefully by then, I'll be a successful lawyer. Hopefully by then, I'll be a successful author.
Well, my dear fellow, our carriage appears to have arrived. Shall we go, Mr. Naruto?
Yes, Mr. Sholmes.
I've little doubt Mr. Natsume will be released in time for dinner this evening.
And so, with Sasaki-san's innocence successfully established, we rode with Mr. Sholmes to what was to become our new home, 221B Baker Street. How fun! 20th of February, 4:41 p.m., the attic room. Yep, that's an attic. So this is to be our new office, yes. Our office? I rather like the sound of that. Me too. It's simply wonderful, isn't it? I hope you can see this, Kazuma. It's only a small step, but I'd like to think we're getting a little closer to your dream now.
So, my dear fellows, do you like the place?
Mr. Sholmes, yes, thank you so much. Oh, he's out of uniform. It's a delightful room, Mr. Sholmes. I simply adore it.
Good. I'm pleased to hear it. Iris and I are delighted to welcome you.
I hope everyone's hungry. It's nearly time for dinner. We'll eat as soon as Mr. Natsume arrives. We have a lot to celebrate. Iris, you must let me help you. Alright then, Susie, you can be in charge of the salad.
Do you make the salad with a gun?
Splendid.
So, Mr. Naruhodo, how does it feel to have your own office in the capital?
It's very exciting, actually. I can't help wondering what adventures await us.
Those were precisely my sentiments when I first established my office at these premises. Until I discovered the dark truth about the city of London, that is.
Sorry?
London is a glorious place, full of wonder, opportunity, prosperity, and mirth. But the brightest of lights casts the darkest of shadows.
Shadows? What do you mean?
Well, I believe you're well aware of the murkiness that lies behind London's facade already. So, once again, Mr. Naruhodo, welcome to London.
Interesting little hint there. Of course, at the time, I had no idea of the significance of those words Mr. Sholmes so casually spoke, but it wasn't long before my turn came to lift the facade and see the true depth of the murk that lay behind it. And there we go. End. Alright. The end of the Clouded Kokoro. The adventure of the... Ooh, next is the adventure of the unspeakable story. That's, the Hound of the Baskervilles. Interesting. Well, we'll save that for next time, yep. Alright, well, next week, we'll pick it back up with the unspeakable story. See you then.